Happy Wednesday, hump day. We're almost there. Had a friend of mine text me yesterday. Is it too early to be getting really hyped about this game? And that was on Tuesday with 48 hours or more to go. Good morning, everyone. Kevin Bowen, James Boyd. I'm Jeff Rickard. Kylan Talley is manning the ship again this morning. We appreciate that. But people have taken a deep breath, KB. But now they are starting to get their hype on just a little bit. They can't wait. That clock is going so slow right now, is it not?
I got ants in the pants. I am. I'm ready. I'm ready. This is the longest week in the history of sports weeks in the city of Indianapolis.
JB, you getting that same sense as you're out and about on the town?
Yeah, I got a little bit of appeasement last night at the Fever game, and obviously a little bit selfish and greedy, and I want more. So obviously I'm excited for tomorrow night.
And the slide is over for the Indiana Fever. They had a nice win last night in second half. They were in control for the entire game for the entire second half anyway.
They tried to. They did, give up a 16-2 run, I believe, late. And I was thinking to myself, you guys lose this game, it's going to really, really hurt. But shout out to Ari McDonald, who got picked up on a hardship waiver, the number 3 pick from, I believe, 2021. She came in basically straight up a flight, got one practice in with the team, and was able to give them some juice at the point guard position. So big shout out to her.
I don't know about you guys, but I took advantage of it last night. Like, I just nodded off near the end.
Don't tell me this. Don't tell me this.
Hang on to this. This is for the first time since probably the Grand Prix. Wife was out of town. Kids didn't have to be taken anywhere. There was no NBA game on. I did watch a little bit of the Fever in the second half. I started to go to sleep then. I fell asleep like at 9:15. I woke up at almost 5 o'clock this morning. James, that is the first time I have crossed over 7.5 hours of sleep since the Grand Prix, and I feel magnificent. Magnificent this morning.
Yeah, I feel like we should, this is a day in history.
We're
hearing about Jeff's sleep record.
Where
again.
were you when the Pacers made it back to the NBA Finals? Where were you when Jeff Rickard got 8 hours and 27 minutes of sleep?
It was beautiful. It was. I feel like I've won game one already. I can't wait for the game to start tomorrow night. Let's go.
Get you to OKC. Get you off the bench for a couple minutes.
The other thing that we have not brought up yet, and I'm personally, just because why not, blaming Kevin. Kevin, you went and got a coach fired yesterday. What happened there? Tom Thibodeau, gone, out. Pacers bounced him to the curb, and James Dolan is like, yeah, I know that you've won 17 playoff games, which is 17 more than anybody else had won since 2000. But sorry, you got to go.
Is it really 17? Gosh, it's a big number. Yeah, it's just so New York Knicks, so James Dolan, all of it. So what is it? Is it Jay Wright? Is it Mike Malone?
Sounds like Mike Malone.
It cannot be Jay Wright. He sounds disinterested in coaching every time anybody proposes that to him.
I mean, the Pope is Villanova, right? So, I mean, I don't know. I just felt like it was all going to add up for him.
I don't know if God can help the Knicks right now.
It is kind of wild how the Pacers seemingly, play these teams and beat these teams, and then right after that, these coaches get fired. I think the same thing was with Mike Malone, if I'm not mistaken. I kind of forget where Taylor Jenkins was in the firing process. I feel like there was somebody else I'm forgetting about this past year that got axed after the Pacers beat them. So, yeah, I assume Mike Malone. Honestly, the other name I thought, because I feel like he has coached every single somewhat major market star player since leaving here. I feel like this is the one job that Frank Vogel needs to have. Does not just scream like a Frank Vogel job.
You know what? That is a good call, KB. I'm curious to know if he's
Why
interested.
Not New York, right?
Yeah, he won a championship in L.A. too.
Yeah,
so
the Suns thing was so weird. So sudden. And again, I think that was probably a lot of new ownership, right? But yeah, it's just so New York Knicks. That's the simplest way I could sum it up. I mean, it's astonishing the lack of playoff sniffing of success they had prior to Tibbs' arrival. And I get it. There are some things with Tibbs that I don't know. Maybe you feel like he's too stubborn in his ways, but he had gotten you to a point that you actually had created stability with the New York Knicks, and then poof.
Man, that's crazy. I just want to make sure that little stat I gave, that's more than any other coaches combined since 2000 for the Knicks. Way more. So,
jeez.
They've been bounced early a couple of times.
My hot take is that I kind of understand it. If you do want to try to push the team ahead, maybe you don't like his offensive philosophies, but
wasn't this year one with Bridges and Towns?
I know that's my pushback.
You
is you did change the team, you did make it further than you ever have in the last 25 years.
3-1 on the Celtics when Tatum got hurt. It's not like you had a joke of a run here.
And then you were 2 wins away from the finals. So when Leon Rose comes out and says, we got to take the next step, I'm like, all right, does that mean finals next year?
What's that say to the new guy? What if he goes out in the first round?
I know. It's always drama in New York, right?
Well, that's what they love there. And, it's interesting because they're star players. One of them, Jalen Brunson, didn't even want to entertain the question. He's like, are you serious? You ask me that? He's a great coach. He's my coach. And then Karl Anthony Towns, apparently, not a big fan.
So the Pacers broke the Knicks.
And I can't say that he said that, but that's what I'm hearing. So, how about that? Does it break your heart that the Pacers broke the Knicks?
No, not really. I'm on to the finals and excited for game 1, where there will certainly be a lot of mutual respect on both sides. Me and Kevin were at practice yesterday for the Pacers, and Rick Carlisle had a lot of good things to say about SGA, the way that OKC plays, Tyrese Halliburton. The world is against us. Doesn't matter. And we'll certainly see how it all shakes out.
Well, it's going to be a lot of fun. Not always smooth, Kevin, getting to Oklahoma City yesterday for the Indiana Pacers. They had to divert their flight about 110 miles away to Tulsa because there was some serious tornado activity in between Tulsa and Oklahoma City. So they stopped the plane for a while, let all the storms go through, and then went about their merry way. So hopefully that's a good sign that the storm's coming. They're prepared to handle it. That's how I'm looking at it.
Yeah, in all seriousness, just glad that they got there safely.
Yeah.
And again, they still have a full day to prepare for game 1. So it's not like they were arriving the day before, game the next day. They get the entire day off basically today. They'll have some media obligations, I'm sure, and then you get ready for practice, and then it's showtime.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to stay in Oklahoma City for 5 straight days, so I don't think a little bit of a delay is anything too bad when you think about probably where your NBA cities rank on cities you want to visit. I can't imagine Oklahoma City is near the top of that. But yes, media day today. They will have a practice today, and then as James said, we are now 7 hours away from game 1. So, boy, if I'm already tired of it this morning, I can only imagine how grumpy I'm going to be tomorrow morning just waiting until 8 o'clock. Can you imagine if I guess it's 8:30, isn't it? Can you imagine if they had finished it off in game 5? We would have had 2 extra days.
Oh. Do you have any do-it-yourself projects at home you can keep yourself busy with between now and then?
I've mowed the lawn. I feel like I've done it all. I'm trying to think. Nothing immediately comes to mind. I was thrilled to watch the Fever last night, beyond thrilled. I'm like, yes, here we go. This is basketball. So tonight, I don't have that. But yes, to echo what James Boyd said, I was very impressed by Arie McDonald. That was fun. It's a fun story. It's kind of like one of those random 10-day contract stories, and boom, she gets injected into playing major minutes, and I thought played really well. And shout out to Lexi Hall in the second half. I mean, that was
she's so much better than she was last year.
She is Aaron Nesmith, Andrew Nemhard type of just vibes to her. She had some huge plays down the stretch because, as James pointed out, that big third quarter, it got away from them quickly in the fourth quarter there, and that was some nervy moments there. Lexi Hall, big, and Kelsey Mitchell, a huge and one, I think, to kind of put the cherry on top. So 3-game losing streak over for the Fever, and now we'll await the update on Caitlin Clark. She is expected to certainly miss at least Saturday. We'll see if there's any new news coming later this week on her quad recovery.
Yeah, and then they play at Atlanta on Tuesday. I almost wonder if they'll just wait to the next home stand after that to just give that quad one more, especially if they win their next game.
Yeah, as we say all the time, she's going to be reevaluated on June 9th, early next week. So that does not mean she'll return on June 9th. So some fans are always like, okay, she's going to be back. That is the franchise player. That is the face of the league. So they're going to be very, very cautious with her. And it's kind of similar to what we've heard from Rick Carlisle in regard to Jarris Walker, where, again, he said he's going to miss at least the first 2 games of the series.
He didn't look good to me yesterday.
No, he was on crutches yesterday, even though he was joking around with Tyrese Halliburton. He asked.
That's getting him food, right?
Yeah, about getting 2 bacon cheeseburgers, I believe, from Culver's. But no, he was still on crutches. And again, the fan base hears Rick say, oh, he's out at least 2 games. They're like, oh, only 2 games? No, at least 2 games. And so I would just say be very cautious or very, tailored in your expectations of Jarris going forward because, as Kevin said, still on crutches and, obviously game 1 is tomorrow.
Yeah, the Jarris Walker I saw yesterday is not playing in game 3. I mean, maybe I should take off my Larry Legend hat and remember I'm wearing a Larry Legend hat, not a medical hat here. But yeah, I don't know. I saw Jarris Walker yesterday and thought, okay, he's probably not going to be playing here anytime soon.
All right, we'll tell you all about it throughout the morning. I had a conversation with Bill Polian about the late Jim Irsay that we'll pass along to you later on today. And we'll also hear some interesting stuff from Tyrese Halliburton. These guys are all going on their buddy's podcast now and saying good stuff, James. That's how that works. I like that.
I don't know where you're going with this, so I'm curious to hear what he had to say on whoever podcast was out there. So let's do it.
All right, we'll talk about it all as we continue on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan. T-minus 36 hours and 13 minutes until we have tip in Game 1 of the NBA Finals. You can check my math later, by the way, James. I did that on the
But so you
fly,
can add a few more minutes on there because NBA games never start on time?
That's true.
Oh, don't get me started.
But anyway, they'll take on the Oklahoma City Thunder tomorrow night in Oklahoma City. Game 1 of the NBA Finals. Team had a practice here yesterday, then took a plane to Tulsa where they had to wait out some severe storms and tornadoes that were happening in the Oklahoma City airport area. So nice job by everybody to keep that out of any kind of, letting that manifest in any type of way. So they got to Oklahoma City safe and sound. They'll meet with the media later on today, have another practice there, and then they will be ready to go for Game 1 of the first NBA Finals for the franchise since the year 2000 when they played Shaq and Kobe, JB. It's been a minute.
It's certainly been a minute because I'm like, Shaq is now, years and years and years into his TNT gig, which is now going to ESPN. So the world has changed, Jeff.
Anyway, that'll be coming your way tomorrow. And, of course, we'll start it at 8 o'clock right here on 93.5, 107.5 The Fan. A little pregame to the pregame before that, though, with JMV. So we're looking forward to it. And I got some news later on today. JMV going to be partying with the folks before Game 5. Doing a special show, too.
He's always partying. That? This isn't news. This is his reality.
I wonder if he's bringing his own RV or not. That's the question right there. Kevin, things continuing for the Indianapolis Colts. You guys will be back out there tomorrow at West 56th Street, correct?
Yeah, so OTA's picking up again this week. So we get one viewing each week right now, and then next week we'll be out there for the entire minicamp. And that concludes the offseason program. So, a week from tomorrow, that'll be it. They'll go away for about a month plus. We'll await the start date to training camp. James, I'd guess a little earlier start date to training camp because they have that Thursday night preseason game. I think the CBA says like 14 or 15 days from your first preseason game, but yes, we'll be out there tomorrow afternoon for our next viewing of the Colts at an OTA.
Other than the quarterback position battle, anything else you're interested in really taking a look at, James?
No, I'm joking. Of course, the quarterbacks is always the priority, but I'll be looking at, just who's there, who's available. I know Javarius Ward didn't do any team activities last week. Will he be involved more tomorrow when we go out there? And then also a couple different position battles, linebacker, running back, things like that.
All right, that'll get going tomorrow. Meanwhile, the Indiana Fever kept the Fieldhouse busy last night. They kept the Washington Mystics busy. They won 85-76. They improved their record to now 3-4. Kelsey Mitchell had 24. The aforementioned Lexi Hull, who we were talking about a few moments ago, 14.6 rebounds. And newcomer Ari McDonald, James, you were at the game, 7 points, 5 boards in 27 minutes.
Yes, I mean, this is someone who had one practice with the Fever, was able to get off a plane essentially and give the team some life at the point guard spot. Thought she did an outstanding job. She spoke after the game about just staying ready and how hard that is as a pro, but she was saying she's in survival mode and she's got to eat, so I respect it.
Kevin, they play another
She
game
ate last night.
Yeah,
for sure.
2 road games coming up, but not until Saturday at Chicago and then the following Tuesday at Atlanta, and it makes you wonder when their next home game is the 14th. You get a week from Saturday, maybe really get her set and ready before Caitlin Clark comes back, or do you think they come back as soon as she can if she can play in that Atlanta game?
Well, I mean, to James's point, when they announced it, they said, reevaluated in 2 weeks. That would be the night of the Atlanta game. I don't know if you base it off that. Probably going to miss that one, but we'll await an update from Stephanie White. I thought Lexi Hall was tremendous in the second half. I know the third quarter she had a big scoring outburst, but there was about a 3 or 4 play stretch there in the final few minutes where, again, it was still close. And Lexi Hall on both ends of the floor made some key plays for the Fever before Kelsey Mitchell put it on ice. So much needed. You need to weather the storm without Caitlin Clark. Again, these are teams, I know Washington's had a nice start to the year, but these are not teams that are expected to be at the top of their respective conferences. So much needed for the Fever.
And, while we were talking about Lexi Hull, I felt like second half of the year last year, James, when they really started to put it together and become a force to be reckoned with before they got bounced in the second round of in the postseason, it felt like Lexi Hull really started to find her groove in that last 10, 12 games, just constantly popping threes from the perimeter and just hustles so hard. Feels like she's kind of just coming along to being one of the better players in the WNBA.
Absolutely. I had the chance to ask her last night about her offensive development, and it's night and day from where she was as a rookie to where she is now. As a shot creator, putting the ball on the floor, knocking down the threes. Obviously, the defense has always been there, but I think offensively, she is kind of evolving, similar to what Kevin said earlier. like Aaron Neesmith has, where it's more than just the spot-up shooter. She can put it on the floor a little bit now and get to the basket and get some buckets.
All right. Check in on Major League Baseball real quick. The Cubs got a win over the Washington Nationals 8-3, but that cannot dampen the lead story for Major League Baseball, and I apologize, Kevin, for not leading with the fact that the Reds doubled up the Brewers 4-2 last night.
TJ Friedel, incredible play there in the bottom of the ninth to save that 2-run lead. So, yes, I'm sure if Mark Dykton was here, he would play that highlight over and over again. But he robbed a game-tying homer there last night to stop one of the hottest teams, maybe the hottest team in all of baseball.
All right, St. Louis Cardinals took it on the chin at home against the in-state rival Kansas City Royals. 10-7 was the final score in that one last night. Anything else you want to throw in, KB, while we're talking stuff locally here?
Yeah, I thought it was great to see yesterday. We're going to have the U.S. swim trials back here in 2028. That announcement yesterday from USA Swimming certainly was an outstanding 8-day run last summer. And when you think about it, I know this year is definitely the outlier because we have plenty of June sports to talk about. But for 8 days in mid to late June last year, you had 285,000 people attending swim trials inside of Lucas Oil Stadium. So the 2028 Olympics, they are out in L.A., and I think, honestly, the Lucas Oil introduction to swimming inside of a football stadium contributed to SoFi, is where they're going to host the actual games coming up in 2028. So, I just made total sense. So nice work by USA Swimming to come back here. And 285,000 people across 17 different sessions back last summer. So that will be coming back here in 2028.
Mrs. Rickard and I were two of those, and man, did we have a good time that night. She can't wait for it to come back. So a lot of people really enjoyed that. It was
Do you
just
think we'll
visually
still
stunning.
have more swim trials than we will have Colts home playoff games inside of Lucas Oil Stadium by 2028?
Everything was going so well, Kevin.
Twisting the knife. No, I'm going to say no just because one is every 4 years.
There will be a home playoff game, you're saying, between now and 2028.
Yes. One, at least.
One home playoff game. Now that you say it out loud, I'm like, I'm probably going to say no.
So you've got 3 years.
against-
You've got 2025, 2026, 2027, because these swim trials are in the summer of 28. So in the next 3 years, will the Colts have one home playoff game?
No, I'm saying no.
Man, you guys are down on that football team.
Give me a reason to be up.
You imagine.
They were one game away last year with shoddy quarterback play.
They were not one game away last year.
Well,
can you imagine in the year 2015 saying the stadium that is called Lucas Oil, the NFL stadium, will host 2 Olympic swim trials before the NFL team that calls it home will host a home playoff game?
you just went to a dark place all of a sudden at 7:30.
Am I wrong with any of that?
Well, I don't know. I hope that it's
Well, what do you think,
I hope it's
honestly?
a doom and gloom forecast.
I think they'll have a home playoff game, one of these in the next 3 years. Aren't you one, CJ? Did I see yesterday CJ Stroud's not throwing the football because his shoulder's hurt?
Yeah, shoulder soreness.
You're
as
just
they
one
said.
CJ Stroud shoulder soreness away from that division being wide open.
And it's been wide open.
Great point.
Eventually, man.
It's a hell of a bet. It's a hell of a
Getting
debate.
ready to go to the NBA Finals, and Debbie Downer over here is like raining
No,
on my
I
parade.
am Debbie reality. I am
Man,
living in reality
man, oh,
with this
man.
team.
All right, we got to take a quick time out so I can regroup right now, JB. We'll listen to Bill Polian. Had a chance to talk to him about the late, great Jim Irsay, and I want to make sure that you had an opportunity to hear his thoughts as the two worked so closely in building that franchise up to the highest of highs. We'll talk about it next at 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan. This was played during the private memorial service of Jim Irsay earlier this week as the family and the team laid Mr. Irsay to rest, passing away last week at the age of 65. And, of course, all the tributes have been pouring in from those who worked closely with him, those who knew him closely. And one of those people, guys, had a chance to talk to the other day, Bill Polian. But I'll ask you something before I get into this, Kevin Bowen. What do you think about when you, as a guy who grew up in Indianapolis, what are your, now that you've had a time to kind of think about it for a week, what were your thoughts on Bill Polian and what he did for this city?
Well, I mean, it's incredible. The architect of the greatest run in NFL history from a regular season standpoint, 2009. I think at times we're caught up in a little bit of, it was just Peyton. It's like, wait a minute. Have you seen the other Hall of Famers or Ring of Honor guys that were drafted not named Peyton? I forget, what was Polian's official arrival? Was it 90? I want to say Marvin might have already been drafted. So even if you go just post Peyton, Freeney, Mathis, Sanders, Clark, Reggie, even other picks like a Dye. I mean, to have that run, it's incredible. The run of unbelievable draft pick hits that were there and set up that run to where, obviously Peyton was the heavy lifter and all of it, but you had some damn good players at other spots of the team and really built a team that was, well suited for, I think, the indoor atmosphere, get a lead and let those pass rushers kind of pin their ears back and make hay.
I've had a chance to get to know Bill Polian over the last 6-8 years or so. We've worked a lot together on NFL radio and some other projects as well. He's always been supportive of me, but just tremendous. It didn't always end on the greatest of terms for he and Mr. Irsay when it went out. I know that there was the stories that Bill wanted his son to be involved moving forward, and it just kind of got a little sideways for a minute, but everybody loved Jim Irsay at the end of the day, and Bill Polian certainly counts himself among those folks, and I had the opportunity to talk to him about the passing of Jim Irsay, and I started by asking, your first thoughts, Bill, on when you heard Mr. Irsay had passed away. What were your thoughts?
Well, I was terribly saddened. 65 is not old age anymore, and so that's he's leaving us far too soon, especially in light of the fact that I know how crazy he was about his grandchildren and how happy they made him. So it's a sad time, but he'd also from everything I've heard was really in ill health, and so in that sense he's not suffering any longer. So there's a silver lining to every situation, but it's just sad for Indianapolis to lose such a wonderful citizen, and for those of us who had the opportunity and the good fortune to work for him, we've lost a good friend.
I think almost everyone has echoed that sentiment. We all know that he was a kind, generous man. We keep hearing these stories that none of us have ever heard coming out where people say, yeah, this is what Jim Irsay did for me, or this was how he supported me in a really tough time. Are there things that we don't know about him as an owner that shed light on who he was, things that you saw every day that just don't get talked about, where you wish everybody knew what you knew?
Well, I'm not sure that there's a lot of things that people don't know. What is clearly obvious to everybody that was close to the team knows how strongly he felt about the players, how much he cared for them, how generous he was to the staff, what a good person he was. What fun he was to be around, how family oriented he was. All of that, at least for those of us who worked for the team, knew that and valued it greatly. Whether or not it ever got played out in public is another issue. But that's. I mean, I doubt you'd be hard pressed to find someone who's ever worked for the organization who didn't feel that way. And then from a football standpoint, he was the ideal owner because he'd done everything there was to do in the business except play and coach. And he played at SMU as a linebacker. So he understood everything about the business. And so something that would take an hour's conversation with someone who had no idea what went on a professional football team, in reality, would take, at most 15 minutes with him. And he would have, if he had a strong opinion, he'd voice it. But invariably, he would say to Tony and I, or Jim Caldwell and I, if you guys feel strongly about it, then let's do it. You got my backing 100%. That's, you can't ask for anything more from an owner than that.
Hall of Famer Bill Polian and the architect of those Colts Super Bowl teams joining us here on the Payless Liquors Hotline this morning as we look back on the life of Jim Irsay, a man to be celebrated here in Indianapolis for sure. We also have talked a lot about what he meant to his players. My partner Kevin Bowen had pointed out that not one, not two, but 3 different players elected to have him speak for them at the Hall of Fame. As a Hall of Famer, how remarkable is that players would ask the owner to do that? 3 of them.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's really only, I think, happened in one other case, and that's Al Davis with certain Raiders. And at least that's my recollection. But regardless of that, it speaks to how he treated the players, how he valued the players, how he felt so strongly about the contributions that they made. For example, Edgerrin was not a member of the Super Bowl winning team. Most people don't know that. They assumed that he was because he was such a great player. He wasn't. He'd moved on that particular year. And that, by the way, was heartbreaking for Jim. He understood the reasons for it, but nonetheless, it was terribly emotional for him, and he made sure Edgerrin got a ring.
That's outstanding, and it shows just how connected he was to his players at a time where oftentimes we see, and you've been a part of this, you see some owners that are kind of in the, for lack of a better term, in the ivory tower. That was not him at all, was it?
Oh, no, not at all, but that's because he knew so much about the game. I mean, he'd come out and watch practice, and I'd sit with him, and he'd say, this guy's running better routes today than I've seen him in a while. He watched film. He knew all about the players that were coming out in the draft. He was a football man. The same way Wellington Mara was a football man. The same way Danny Rooney was a football man. The same way George Halas was a football man. He wasn't someone who came in from another business and bought a team. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but he had been he'd worked on the mechanics of the car, in his early life in the business, so he knew everything about it. He was a football man through and through.
What will you miss?
That's why it was such a joy to work with.
What will you miss most about Mr. Irsay?
Oh, I think the personal part of it. We talk about history, we talk about books, we talk about rock and roll. Anytime we was in the office, there'd always be discussions about that before we got to movies, before we got to the football stuff. And he was fun to be around. He was, as you know, genuinely nice and good person. And that's, we did, I said to him when I left, we did great things together, but that pales by comparison to, the affection we have for one another.
Bill Polian, I hear you all the time on Sirius XM NFL radio and on other media outlets here and there. I've had the good fortune of working with you on some of those broadcasts. How are you doing these days? People are wanting me to ask you how Bill Polian is.
Well, I'm doing fine. I have thank you. I have a bulky back, so that limits a lot of things you can do. But at my age, I'll take it. I'm standing upright, and I can go and hack the ball around the golf course and walk a fair amount, and I get to see my grandchildren grow up, and that's a blessing. We just had one graduate from Notre Dame this past weekend, and then another graduating from high school next weekend. So it's been that's a joy too. So I'm very blessed. I got no complaints.
Well, congratulations on all of that. Thanks again so much for spending some time of your day to help us remember Jim Irsay, and can't wait to see you when you get back to Indianapolis. We'll talk to you again soon.
Look forward to it. Thank you very much.
There he is, the one and only Bill Polian, talking about Jim Irsay and some of the things that they worked through and went through. And I think the common theme, guys, and you can both weigh in on this, is just anybody and everybody, when they think of Jim Irsay, yes, he was the owner of the Colts, and yes, this, that, the other thing, the NFL stuff. But right now, all everybody wants to talk about is how much they loved and appreciated him for who he was, which I thought was really cool to hear the last week and a half. Yeah,
huge personality. Obviously, a lot of memories with each person. I think everyone has their own personal Jim Irsay story, and a guy like Bill Polian is going to have plenty of those. So great to hear from him. Great to hear that he's doing well, and as he increases in age, and obviously he seems to still be locked in on the football side as well. So just a unique time for the franchise, and everyone's still kind of processing the next stage without Jim Irsay.
A youthful 82, Kevin. He just keeps going. I love it.
It's probably not a conversation for today, but I am curious down the road when the next era of Colts are ushered in and we really see the daughters make their first hire on that side of the building. Is there any sort of opting for that team president of football operations that Bill Polian was? Is there any sort of do they feel like that is necessary? Obviously, we saw it during the Polian era. Carly, is the oldest daughter, Carly Irsay Gordon, has been heavily involved in, I guess, learning maybe is the word that comes to mind, learning about everything football operationally. And we've heard the stories in the last couple of weeks. And, people that watch games certainly see on the sidelines if you are ever out at practice. I feel like she is there seemingly every practice that we're out there. And heavily involved in meetings. DeForest Buckner told the story about, his first COVID meeting. All of a sudden, the D-line room, he looks at the Zoom, chat list or participant list, and he notices Carly Irsay in the Zoom meeting for the D-line position room. So is that something that we see from the organization here? Again, it's nothing imminent, but, down the road when they do make their first big-time hires on that side of the building.
Good to hear from Bill Polian. It's the Fan Morning Show with Kevin Bowen, James Boyd, Kylan Talley in for Mark Dykton, who's already enjoying, I don't even know how many days we've had in 2025, but Mark has had half of those off at this point in time, has he not?
You allow him to do this.
No, I'm telling you, there's a system.
Kevin, you have been here for a very long time, brother. I don't know what you're doing that Mark is doing or isn't doing, but...
A little nervous what Mark's doing behind a closed door to get all these vacation days here, so... to each their own.
Mark, again, he spreads them out very well. He does 2 days here, 3 days here. He did the whole week this week. I don't know how that worked out.
You see how he's got the boss just wrapped around his finger, Kevin?
Yeah.
You got to step your game up.
Honestly, I do the hat
You all
tip.
should all aspire to that.
Gift to Derek Jeter there. That's what I'm doing. Guys, am I grasping at straws here with Pacers Thunder? Hear me out on this. The Thunder, their starting lineup, all 26 and under, right? This is new to them, experience in the NBA Finals. In today's NBA, we don't have really anything you can compare to what the scene is in the NBA Finals. I want to make that very clear. But I think you would ask the Pacers, they would say that last year's experience in that in-season tournament was a pivotal kind of proving point for them. They go out there to Vegas.
That last season? That feels like a lifetime ago.
Yeah.
Wow.
I thought one of the cooler environments I've ever seen for a Pacers regular season game was that quarterfinal game against the Celtics over at Gainbridge Fieldhouse. They win that game to go to Vegas. They beat the Bucks. They do the Dame Lillard. Halliburton does the Dame Lillard celebration there. And they go to the in-season tournament title game against the Lakers. And, again, I think you talk to people in that organization, and they point to that as that was the first kind of like, guys, we can do this. Like, we're not just the plucky, fun team to watch. We're legit. So this year, the Thunder, they go to the in-season tournament championship. In that game, again, I don't want to act like the in-season tournament is the NBA Finals, but I think at this point in the Thunder's sort of build, it's probably the biggest moment they've been in. Guys, they scored 81 points in the in-season tournament championship game. 81. 98 is their season low besides that. Am I grasping at straws to say, in probably the biggest moment they've been on yet, they bleeped the bed. They scored 81. Am I grasping at straws and going through withdrawal of not having an NBA Finals game happen until Thursday night?
I like where your head's at, but that was a long time ago, and this is a team that just got blown out by Minnesota.
I was hoping you'd go a little longer.
I know. This is a team
very quickly
He
with the
literally,
yeah,
it's
but.
like your son. He's like, all right, son, you did all
You
right.
can just call me an idiot.
You know,
No. I
Did
feel
good
like
in
nothing.
school.
Kylan, I
but-
feel like I'm under
81
fire
points in the
today.
in-season
Help
tournament
my
championship.
brother
It's
out.
part of being in the middle.
31 points in the second half of that game. 31 points in a half of basketball is absolutely horrific. That's not the Vegas stage. That's not the bright lights of the standalone
Brother,
again,
in-season tournament game.
I
I'm
like
not-
where your head's at. I do.
No,
I just don't know if I can go there.
I don't like where your head is at. We
Wow.
need games because, Kevin, unlike Jeff, I'm not going to sugarcoat anything. No, brother. They were just in the Western Conference Finals.
Okay. All right.
That's the biggest stage they've been on. And
Okay.
they passed with
Fair.
flying colors.
Fair.
Yeah, my thought
So
was
there's nothing of you're curious how they'll look in their first moment of this. Is there any of that? Even if you want to separate in-season tournament, NBA Finals, again, I'm grasping at straws clearly. Is there any sort of, we get to the final few minutes, do the Thunder, hey, we're the 68-win team. Hey, we're the one that was favored by 9-10 in game one. We're the team that's supposed to dust the Pacers in the tie. We're the biggest NBA Finals favorite in X amount of years. Do you think they feel any of that?
I think they'll feel more that they're playing against a team that, like them, can dictate the pace of a basketball game and will get up and down the floor. And I think that they'll feel that equality from that standpoint. I still think if there's an advantage that the Pacers have, that it plays out over time and not so much right at the very beginning to see how Oklahoma City handles this, which I still think is a good point. But I think the ability for guys like Rick Carlisle and veteran players, I think it'll show itself more as the series deepens and goes along, as opposed to like right out of the gate would be my thought.
I
James.
think for OKC, they've been in this position already where they've been tested, not at the finals level, obviously, but they were down 2-1 going into a road game 4 against the best player in the world in Nikola Jokic, and they end up coming back and winning that series in 7.
And won an ugly game.
Yeah. So they've been tested, and the question is, to Jeff's point, can they be tested even more by the Pacers and their style of play and just a different variation of what they've seen as far as team builds and stuff like that? Because if you look at some of these Western Conference teams that they faced, they haven't been very – is team-centric the right way to use it? Because point being, they're facing teams that have like a primary star that everything kind of runs through, whereas with the Pacers, they have obviously Halliburton and runs through him, but it's very much everyone feasts, everyone gets a chance to score or benefit from the offense or put pressure on you, and that'll be a unique challenge, I think, for them to kind of see.
I think it's a good point because, when they doubled Anthony Edwards in the Western Conference Finals, outside of Julius Randle, the others were terrible for Minnesota. The others have been great for the Pacers. Again, Nembhard is, even if you look at the whole playoffs, he's shooting it much better than he did in the regular season.
Yeah.
I know he didn't shoot it great against the Knicks, but overall, he's shooting it much better. Nesmith certainly is above his numbers. Turner is well above his numbers. And Siakam continues to shoot it well from 3. So that's where I do think that decision a little bit for Mark Daigneault and the Thunder staff of defending Anthony Edwards is different than defending Tyrese Halliburton. Edwards is, he's a linebacker when he can get downhill, and he's not necessarily looking for others to the degree that Halliburton is. Of course, Halliburton is not the linebacker as a driver. Do you have the same mindset with Halliburton? Do you double him? Because if you do look at the 2 regular season matchups, guys, Lou Dort ate Halliburton's lunch. And I thought Rick Carlisle said a quote yesterday that stood out to me, James, and just what the most impressive thing is about the Thunder. The depth of their defenders is staggering. That was the phrase that Carlisle used of, it's not just Dort. Like, Halliburton can't just sit there and hunt. Like, there's just not guys to be hunted as easily as there are.
You're not hunting SGA
on other teams. SGA is a much better defender than Brunson.
He's 6'6".
Or Cat and again,
Oh.
Caruso and Jalen Williams. They have a lot of different guys. So I do think, to your point, defending the Pacers' ability to just pass the basketball is different. And I'm curious how the Thunder will they still be as effective as they typically are on that end of the floor. At the same time, the Pacers are about to see a defensive team that they haven't seen all year long.
It's going to be a lot of fun. Like I said, I can't wait for the game to tip off tomorrow night. And
how about, can I go another one if you guys want to just bleep all over me again? Gosh, I feel like I'm talking to Rick Carlisle.
You couldn't wait to get that one out.
I feel like I'm asking him about any.
I was like, the in-season tournament, brother.
How about this? Game 1 rust. This was a topic that we debated last round. I said no chance the Pacers will have Game 1 rust. They haven't been rusty all year when they've had these long layoffs. Do you believe in the Thunder in Game 1 rust? They've had 9 days off.
I really don't. I think they'll be at home. I think if there's any quote-unquote rust, it'll be just nerves from both sides because you have been on this stage and it's like, oh, wait a second, for the first, I don't know, 3% of the game, you might be thinking I'm in the NBA Finals and I got to make this shot or I got to make this play. But I don't think there'd be a lot of rust, to be honest with you.
Last time the Thunder had this amount of time off, they lost Game 1 to the Denver Nuggets, who had just played 48 hours earlier in a Game 7. So you guys can poo-poo my in-season tournament.
I do like this take more.
Let me throw a Game 1 rust take at you. I'll keep on grasping until 8:30 tomorrow night.
He's playing all the hits right now.
Kevin's got a whiteboard on like whatever his home office is at home.
I'm waiting for the but from Jeff. I haven't heard it yet.
He's got pins in there. He's got strings. He's got pictures. He's got little arrows that swoop around the outside and come back in. Man, you're getting that, and I'm here for it. I told you, I like where your head's at.
So we like
here.
this one better than the in-season tournament.
I like it much better.
Okay,
this is actually a valid take. You backed it
was
with
a low
evidence.
bar. It was kind of like Colts tight end room is where I was going with the first take, and now I'm at like I don't know what position room I would say. I don't know. My Colts offensive line maybe with this take. Am I going a little better?
We're talking about how things are changing in the NBA landscape, and TNT is going to be moving over to ESPN, I believe, or the Inside NBA show. Do you remember when Craig Sager had an interview with Kevin Garnett and he had the red suit on, and Kevin Garnett was like, "You take this and you burn it." That is what I'm telling you, Kevin. You take that take you had, the first one, and you burn it. I don't want to see it, hear it ever again.
It probably matches the shirt-hat combo that I've gone with on this Wednesday
You're
morning.
good with Larry. Anytime you wear a Larry Legend hat, you're good.
Larry Legend and Tito's golf shirt?
Yeah, he's got the Tito's golf shirt and the golf shorts. Are you going to go play golf today? It looks like you might be going to play golf.
I wish.
Hit balls? Anything?
I don't know. Isn't it going to be rainy today? Did I see that?
I'll tell you all about that in a second here. We'll talk more about getting ready to go for Game 1 of the NBA Finals in Oklahoma City tomorrow night. That comes your way next on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan. Kevin Bone and James Boyd. I'm Jeff Rickard. Kylan Talley is piloting this ship today. How's your week been so far? You having a good time? Do we need to talk to Mark about maybe shuffling things around or what?
Get back here. Oh, even more fun.
Oh, did you see how she dropped Mark in a hurry after saying get back here, didn't she?
Hey,
Once
it's a dog world.
and she was good to go.
You know where my vote is.
No, it's always a great time in the morning. And, hey, we'll take it. We'll take it.
It's always good to be here as we are all in anticipation of Game 1 tomorrow night against the Oklahoma City Thunder. I had mentioned it at the very beginning of the show. If you're just joining us, thanks so much for being here, listening, however you may be listening today, over the air or online or with the app or whatever it happens to be. The app is working, by the way. We had one person say the app wasn't working. It is working. Sometimes, every once in a while, those apps, I don't know, they get a bug in them or something. You just got to delete them and reinstall them every once in a while. I've had to do that once or twice.
Yes, one of our listeners said that they did that and it worked. So good advice, Jeff.
But anyway, I had some friends texting me yesterday, like they can't wait. Is it too early to get hyped up already? Last night, people were texting me that. And the answer is no. Let's go, Kevin. I know it's going to be a long day today for you and a long day tomorrow, too, until tip comes.
I thought it hit me twice yesterday. Once, James, we're inside the Pacers practice facility, and for those that have never been in the St. Vincent Center, the Pacers back in the corner have a little section where they put up the NBA standings, and they have the West and the East, and they update them throughout the year. And, usually there's 30 teams on that board, and as they make their way through the playoffs, they eliminate the teams. And I just happened to look over there yesterday, and there it is. Thunder, Pacers. 28 teams are gone. 2 teams are left. It hit me then, and then the Pacers also tweeted out a picture late last night of the gold jerseys with the NBA Finals patch on it. And I thought that might have hit me even more of like, oh, yeah, this is no we are not debating what corporate company is going to be on your jersey patch. We're not doing any of that discussion that we've done over the last couple of years with the NBA. No. That is the NBA Finals logo on the gold jerseys, which I think if people had to vote for jerseys in the modern Pacers era, they'd probably vote for those gold jerseys to be worn. Those are 2 items yesterday when it kind of hit me of like, this is about to be real coming up here in 36 hours.
It'll be a lot of fun. I know you've been talking to all your colleagues around the Athletic for the NBA, and what are you hearing from those folks? What do they think is likely to happen here?
A lot of them are picking the Thunder. So that's what they think is likely to happen. Thunder strikes, or what is it, lightning strikes. Thunder kind of has the roll afterward, and we'll see how it all shakes out throughout the series. But to Kevin's point, I did get kind of some chills. I saw Aaron Nesmith reposted the Pacers post with his jersey and the finals patch on the back, and I was like, man, that thing is sweet. And I might be in the minority here, but I like the traditional uniforms. Well, traditional to a certain extent. I know they're a little bit modernized, but I like that you're forced to wear those on this stage. I know some people are like the City Edition uniforms and different things like that. I know they're nice, but it's something about just a traditional gold, white, blue if they have to wear them. Like, I'm cool with that.
That's like the oldest thing you've ever said.
I know. I'm not a big fan of like the Nike just make more money jerseys is what I would call them.
I like the look of the city. I do, but if I had to pick, I'm good with the gold here.
Yeah, it's
I'm old school, baby.
It's formal though. This is the NBA Finals. You're
You got
putting your
Mr.
Sunday
Boyd
best
in your
on.
ear
Let's
too
go.
much.
Man,
with
I
that
was
take.
born in the 1900s, as the kids tell me, as my god kids tell me.
So we were born in the same century.
Tomorrow
So we
you
got
gotta
that
say
going
that you
on.
want to watch the game in black and white.
Yeah, man.
Checking this morning, though, the line actually went up overnight. When last we spoke to you, it was 9 points. It's 9.5 now.
We had Joel Lorenzi from the Oklahoman on late in the show yesterday. James, do you make anything out of that stat we brought up to him? The Thunder have played Eastern Conference teams 30 times this season, and they're 29-1. Like, that's kind of wild.
Yeah, that's what the kids say. You take your belt off and you just, didn't I tell you, and that's what it felt like they did to the Eastern Conference the entire season, just beat the brakes off of them. So that is impressive.
Like, is there anything you make, like,
I honestly think it's them just being dominant.
I said to him, like, is there any sort of, like, shock when you see the Thunder the first time? And I don't know, maybe the fact the Pacers have seen them twice, maybe they won't have that coming up on Thursday night. But, 29-1 against the East. It's not like the East is some it's not you aren't playing the MAC. Nothing against
Right.
Chirp.
And then
but
their one loss was against the number 1 team in the East, at least previously, until the Pacers knocked them off, and the Cavaliers. I do think it's a very impressive stat. I don't think it's one of those just pick a random thing to make it sound cool. That's a legit cool stat, great stat, and describes a great team. But the flip side to it is, you're not playing all Eastern Conference teams. You're just playing one of them, and I believe the Pacers are getting out of the East, the best team in the East. And so I am very curious to see just defensively how they match up to this team, and really on both sides, because as much as we've talked about the depth of the Pacers, OKC is pretty deep as well with their personnel, Jeff. And so, who does Tyrese Halliburton guard? Who does Aaron Nesmith guard? Who starts on SGA? Do you want a bigger defender on him? Because unlike Jalen Brunson, he's not 6'1", 6'2". He's 6'6". So do you put Aaron Nesmith on him?
I think you got to start Nesmith on him and hope the whistle isn't too quick.
We were there yesterday. You heard Andrew Nembhard, and he actually had a chance to play with SGA on Team Canada. I was about to say Team USA, but Team Canada in the Olympics. And maybe there are some tricks of the trade you can steal and share there.
That's a decent point. I think I'd start Nesmith on him. Again, hope the whistle is not too aggressive. If it is, you can always slide Nembhard over. Guys, I just think Nembhard's going to be so key offensively. Because
and he has to be. He has to be.
I see Lou Dort, neutralizing Halliburton. And if he does that to a degree and Halliburton's got to defer, then Nembhard becomes a key playmaker offensively for you. So I think it's a good debate. I'm not I was pretty gung-ho about having Nesmith on Brunson. I don't know if I'm necessarily to that degree with the Shea matchup, but I think if I were starting out the series, I'd start with Nesmith. And 5 days off, what did that do for his ankle? Those sorts of things. But yeah, I think I'd start Nesmith there.
Talk about
the question is the ankle, I think, for him.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I made the joke in the locker room after they won Game 6, Jeff, and I'm like, get to the finals, makes your ankle feel a lot better, ha. And he's like, no, I needed this time off, ha. And I was
I think that's one of the reasons Rick quickly changed up the assignments against the Knicks the other night. They started with Nesmith on Jalen Brunson, and quickly I think everybody realized that maybe he's not 100%, and all of a sudden Nembhard is guarding him.
But then he get 2 fouls too.
He did get 2 fouls, but I think it's all that stuff in combination.
Yeah, to Jeff's point, remember he got tangled up.
He was chasing. It felt like he was chasing a little bit.
He was
a couple
kind of
bad
struggling.
fouls, if I remember correctly.
I want to challenge Tyrese on this. You mentioned Lou Dort, and he's going to face guard, and they're going to be physical with him. We know what they're going to do. It's not like it's a secret. They're going to get up in his grill. They're going to push him. They're going to do all these things, right? And so I think the challenge for Tyrese will be, how do I make sure I'm not neutralized? Because you have to be a factor. If you're the star player, you're all NBA.
Preach.
You're a $200 million man. You got to be able to produce, even if the entire scouting report is centered around you not producing. That, to me, is about the stars. And we had a chance to catch up with Tyrese yesterday. Here's what he had to say about, self-doubt, navigating stardom, and just getting to this point where he can go after a championship.
Yeah, I think that's just part of being put on the pedestal and being put on and being expectations rising. It's a part of it. And I think the biggest thing, just to keep, context and things, is just understanding that I'm a human being. I think that's the most important thing for me, because when I do well, I think that I'm, put even higher, and when I'm not doing well, it's, you're always put lower, and people are going to say things to you that, might dehumanize you a little bit, and you can be looked at as a statistic or, just what you do well as an athlete. And I think just always keep it context in it, and just knowing where your piece is. For me, that's become my friends and family. That's become the Lord. Those have been 2 big things for me to just ground myself. And I think this is a really exciting time for me personally to have this opportunity. This is something I've wanted to do my whole life. And, I think last year having playoff success in my first playoff run, and then being unsuccessful to start the season, and it really, for me, I thought a lot about, wow, maybe I took last year for granted, because I didn't know what the playoffs were going to look like as the year was going on. I didn't know if we'd be a playing team or where we would stack up in the end with how we were playing early in the year. So I'm definitely not taking this time for granted at all. Learning to appreciate every day and remember all these days as best as I can. The practices, we'll have the media stuff, which will, I'm sure, suck to a sense leading up to this. Apologies to you guys. You guys are all great. Yeah, you guys are all great. But no, I think just learning to appreciate that, man, and just be where my feet are. And I think, of course, it's easy human nature to set in and be like, yo, we're 4 wins away from winning a championship. All we gotta do is this, that. We're gonna be a champion. And this is what the parade's gonna like. It's easy to do that, but just trying to be grounded and be where my feet are and take it a day at a time. Because if we're able to do what we set out to do, it'll be a really special feeling.
Tyrese Halliburton, and I thought that had come from someplace different, but that was from the press conference yesterday, right?
Yep.
So
right
I
after
apologize for
practice.
saying that earlier, but that's where it came from. Thoughts on his comments?
I think, again, you kind of see how candid and layered he is in that answer, where he's kind of taking this winding road to, oh, yeah, there's times where I might have doubted myself, or there's times where I might have given a little bit too much, energy to what we say in the media, and, the opportunity to win a championship and having to be excited about it, but be realistic about what it takes to win it and things like that. So I'm very curious to see just how he navigates it all. Because to me, this is another chapter in his story. And obviously, this is the end of his career. But you never know if you're going to get back here. Reggie made it to 1 finals. You've made it to 1. You would love to make it to more, as a longtime Pacer. And Pacers fans would certainly welcome that. But I want to see how he approaches it. And to that degree, as I was saying before he spoke just now, you can't let him take you completely out of the game. That, to me, is a recipe for disaster for this team.
Kevin, to your point from earlier, I think your second point, which we all loved, I think this could play into that a little bit. Those are the words of a man who's kind of worked himself up to this finals after the run last year and reflected on not a great start, but now we're playing well. I'm not listening to the media anymore. I've learned so much over the last year. That's the kind of thing where if the rest of the Pacers are like him and really reflective of how they got here from where they were and going through what they went to the Eastern Conference Finals last year, winning the Eastern Conference Finals this year, they may go in there with just that set of, not even a set, just the confidence to like, hey, we're here, we deserve to be here, we earned it, and we're going to take care of business.
So if I'm keeping track, you hate the first point, kind of like the second point. Is that where I'm at?
He hates the first point. I liked where you were headed with the first point, but couldn't get to the destination with
Just
it.
trying to keep score over
Let's
here
go.
for myself.
Nah. You see, Jeff's trying to be nice. I mean, this is the parent coming out with him, with his sons, and it's like
he was getting there.
They got to grow up in a household like I did.
James already mentioned the belt earlier.
What, JB,
Yeah.
son,
You make it sound like you had such a hard scrabble
No, I
life
had a
growing
hard
up,
scrabble.
man.
My parents were just honest. They were very honest with me. When I told them I want to go to the NBA, I got to my junior year of high school, and I stopped growing. My dad was like, boy, you better keep your grades up. You ain't going to the NBA.
To be fair, you went to the NBA in a different way.
Exactly.
Look at that. Kylan spin cycle
I
here.
carried the laptop
There
with
you
me.
go. There's plenty of reality all the way around. Believe me on that. But I do think there could be some reality to that second theory that you
One
posited.
area I think I disagree with a little bit of the national storyline this week. I've heard the storyline quite often of like, are these teams going to start to be copied by other NBA teams? Like, is this the new build? And when I hear that, I know people aren't trying to do this, but in a way, to me,
I know where you're going.
it comes off as a shot at Tyrese Halliburton.
Like you're not the big superstar.
Well, guys, Tyrese Halliburton's one of one. Like, he is one of the more unique players in the NBA.
That is true.
Look at the assist numbers he puts up.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Look at the lack of turnovers he puts up. If you just want to live in that bubble, he's doing stuff we've never seen in the NBA. But we don't just live in that bubble. He's also scoring 20 a game. Guys don't do that. I like all these people are like, yeah, let's just copy what the Pacers are doing. Okay, find me a Halliburton. Like who in this league? We do player comps all the time. We do player comps in the draft all the time. We do player comps within the NBA league all the time. Who would you compare Tyrese Halliburton to? Who, like, is there another player you look at and it's like, oh, that's kind of a mini Halliburton?
Currently or
Currently,
through the past?
college, like no one is like
I don't think currently
Halliburton.
there is. Yeah.
And that's where I do kind of laugh at some of these people that are like, yeah, let's just copy what the Pacers are doing. It's like, no, they struck absolute gold in trading for Halliburton, believing in Halliburton, thinking there was more there with him. Rick Carlisle was beyond open-minded and saying that dude is so gifted, so unique. James Carlisle talked about this yesterday of like, and he's certainly said it with us about in Dallas, they felt like he was a number one player in that draft, a draft that included Anthony Edwards. They got him here. They said, here's the basketball. Do with it what you want to do with it because we trust you that much. We'll put what we think is necessary around you. They have certainly done that. I would strongly push back on NBA people that are like, yeah, sure, maybe you want to try to replicate that, but to act like what the Pacers have done is easy, to me, is a slap in the face at Tyrese Halliburton because he facilitates, distributes, gets others involved like no other. He scores. He's clutch. He plays with great pace. This might sound sappy, but I do think it's real. He plays with great joy. Remember when we had Steve Prohm, his college coach, on a couple weeks ago? He said that was the first thing that struck him watching him in AAU was he couldn't believe that Tyrese Halliburton seemingly had like good relationships with the referees. He's like, this dude just has a personality you want to be around. Like, when I listened to him in these media sessions, James, yesterday he talked for, 10 minutes? I just kind of found myself like, man, what a fun dude. Just seems like he's just loving life and enjoying. And I know he's had some dark moments, and he talked about it yesterday. The start of the season was really difficult for him, but I just think you add up all of it. He's a very, very, very unique player on and off the floor.
And on the flip side, I think the same thing with OKC. It's like, well, just build it like they do. And I'm like, have you seen who they have over there?
Yeah.
SGA, do they grow on trees? MVPs like that. He's one of the more unique players with his style of play. So,
and a million draft picks.
Yeah,
that went into
I
this
totally agree with it. And also, on the Pacers front, it's funny how narratives change when the success comes because it's like, none of you wanted to build like this ever. Even if you say Tyrese is unique and you want to try to take parts of the blueprint, none of you really thought it would work to this degree. And now that it has, you're like, oh, wait a second, maybe they got it right. Like, well, they had to believe before anybody else did. So I agree, Kevin. I think they're in a unique spot. And really, I think the way the league is going, it's more so just how the CBA is and the inability to really keep a lot of these high-level teams together. Like, I don't want to get too much into the weeds, but the new CBA kind of restricts you from paying a lot of guys. So when you do kind of get to that success point, you have to kind of retool and rebuild a lot differently than you did, 10 years ago when they had all these big threes running around the league. So,
yeah, I mean, maybe
something to keep in mind.
Yeah, maybe the idea of, hey, playing with more depth and balance and pace, like maybe that overall thought.
Yeah.
You'll see teams try
but
and
you still need a dude, though.
Yes. And again, Halliburton is the catalyst
He don't grow on trees.
of all of it.
And going back to what Rick Carlisle had said in the post game after the win the other night, and you and I were there, James, where he's talking about once they got Tyrese and saw what he was capable of doing, that's when the light kind of went on for all of them to go, okay, this is how we're going to build this team. We're going to do it kind of around this guy. This is what we need. This is what we're going to get him. And they went about, they realized, to your point, Kevin, they got something different, something special here. How do we now put him in the best position to help us succeed moving forward?
I mean, Kirk mentions here in the YouTube chat, he throws out a big name. He throws out the name of Magic Johnson.
That's the one I was going to throw out to you a minute ago.
You're going back to one of the X amount of greatest players the NBA's ever seen. You're going back how many years? Halliburton wasn't alive when Magic Johnson was, doing his thing. So to me, when I hear it, I know people aren't trying to discredit Halliburton, but when I do hear some of that, it's like, guys, no one is like him. And I can't wait to watch players grow up and try to be like him. I think it'll be fun to watch, like the new age of player that will say, hey, I kind of want to be Halliburton-like. That, to me, is like really healthy for the game. And I think it's a great role model to have a facilitator, a catalyst, a lead guard like his skill set.
All right, coming up in a moment, we'll talk more about the Indiana Pacers and get you ready to go for Game 1 of the Oklahoma City Thunder. But right now, it's time to check it down with the facts and figures of the day. Here are the facts, as Kevin Bowen pointed out a moment ago. 30 teams started, 2 remain. It's all over there on a big board over there at the practice facility. They are ready to go, and those 2 teams will play Game 1 of the NBA Finals in Oklahoma City tomorrow night beginning at 8:30 or whenever TV gets around to having them tip off.
Yeah, NBA games are always late, but certainly an exciting time for both franchises as both of them seek their first NBA championship.
Kevin Bowen, as we get ready to go into that, we know that they're a 9.5-point underdog. Any other things that you've come up with to allay the fears of going up against a buzzsaw in Oklahoma City?
Well, I've shared a lot of that throughout the show. I will just say one update. Again, at practice yesterday, Jarris Walker's still very limited. On crutches, I would say a significant, whatever you want to call it, I don't know, borderline cast on that right foot of him. So the one update we've gotten so far from Rick Carlisle with us earlier in the week, Jarris Walker would be out for at least game 1 or game 2. My very, 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 very amateur doctor hat on. Game 3 is a week from tonight. I don't see him playing.
I'll tell you who's not playing is Caitlin Clark, but it didn't matter last night for the Indiana Fever. They overcame her absence. They were at home. They improved to 3-4 with a win over the Washington Mystics, 85-76. James Boyd, you were there.
Yes, I was there. Aaron McDonald, the number 3 pick from a few seasons ago, got a chance to join the team on a hardship waiver because not only was Caitlin Clark out, but I believe Sophie Cunningham was out as well, and so it needed a body, and she provided more than that with some really good play on both ends of the floor.
Yeah, she ended up having 7 points and 5 rebounds in just 27 minutes. That helped Kelsey Mitchell, 24 points, and Lexi Hull, we talked about her in the last hour, 14 points, 6 rebounds. She had 4 assists. She is one of those players that will just do it all. And, man, can she shoot the 3.
Yeah, she's gotten so much better offensively. I had a chance to ask her last night about that as well, and she was just saying she got a lot of it from Kelsey Mitchell. So I guess she's learned from somebody that's pretty good.
All right, they will play again coming up, a couple of days off, but this weekend they will play at Chicago on Saturday. You'll hear it here on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan. Meanwhile, Kevin Bowen, the Indianapolis Colts, continue to go through OTAs, and you guys will be out there tomorrow to kind of check it out a little bit more.
Yeah, just one viewing right now for us each week, so we'll be out there tomorrow afternoon, and then next week, all 3 days of their mini camp, and that concludes the off-season program for the Colts. So that's how the spring calendar operates, and we'll await a start date for training camp at Grand Park.
JB, have you guys had a chance to watch any of the kickers doing their thing yet?
No, we did not get a chance to see the kickers, the first OTA media availability, so maybe that'll be something I
think I would turn my head, honestly, if all of a sudden the Pacers are in the NBA Finals. I can't be charting kickers right now. I think there's a rule you have to just create standards for yourself, and I should be doing my job. I probably should be paying attention to the kickers, but if the kickers started going, no.
That's like the standards. I love KB. He's got a Miller Lite in his left hand. He's got his Larry Legend hat on. He's ready for the Pacers to go. He can't be bothered with kickers.
I just can't do it.
Can't be bothered with kickers.
I will do it for you.
Like 3 weeks from today is the NBA draft. Have you looked at an NBA mock draft?
No. I know that the number 1 overall pick is going to be Cooper Flagg. That's what I know.
And who's going to? Do we know?
No.
Dylan Harper?
I was going to guess the other Rutgers guy, Bailey, but I have no idea.
All right. Major League Baseball, Chicago Cubs over the Washington Nationals, 8-3 yesterday. They have a 3-game winning streak going on right now. The Cincinnati Reds defeated the Brewers 4-2, but it got a little hairy at the end there,
A little
KB.
robbery. TJ Friedel, what a play in center last night to save the 2-run lead. So very happy as they beat one of the best teams, or I should say one of the hotter teams in all of baseball.
Yeah, Royals knocked out the St. Louis Cardinals 10-7. It was Cleveland getting edged by the New York Yankees, and the White Sox won a game. They beat the Detroit Tigers by a score of 8-1. I want to point out, TJB, the Colorado Rockies won again last night. So how about that?
About time.
Can't stop them.
James, did I hear you correctly earlier? Are you understanding of the Knicks firing Tom Thibodeau?
Yeah, I can kind of see it.
Okay.
I'm not probably a fan of it, but I do
because
see,
he just refuses to play a bench?
I guess that's probably the biggest thing that I had to take away from it when I was reading a lot of Knicks writers and reporters yesterday is that they feel like maybe they should get a coach in there that can evolve a bit more with the offense. The only pushback is he had or led you to your most success you've had in 25 years. So whoever you get, if they don't get to the finals next year, it's a failure by default. So it's tough sledding in New York right now.
Yeah, if you hadn't heard yesterday, Tom Thibodeau fired by the New York Knicks just a couple of days after the New York Knicks and the media and their fans were brokenhearted, upset, ranting, raving because the Indiana Pacers were just better than they were, James. There's no other way to say it. They're just better. 1 in 6 games.
No, I agree.
Just better. Later on tonight, the Indianapolis Indians play on the road against the Memphis Redbirds. They dropped one to the Redbirds last night by a score of 4-2. Coming up in a minute, we'll talk more about the NBA in general, Tom Thibodeau, and the Indiana Pacers specifically as we continue on the Fan Morning Show, 93.5, 107.5 The Fan. It's still a Victory Wednesday. That's what I'm going with here. Does he sound grumpy to you guys lately? I mean, his team is playing in the NBA Finals. Is he just nervous about that?
All I know is JMV will never pull
He's the
any
best.
punches.
No, he'll tell you what he's thinking.
Jackass. I should pull that out more often.
You just did.
I thought you guys were going to go there with me earlier.
No, wasn't that bad. For those of you who are
It
wondering
was that bad. But
what
no,
Kevin
I
said,
would never curse at you, Kevin.
Kevin, did you want to give your two? You were looking for silver linings to all the national media.
I'm going to tease it
talking
for the
down
podcast.
the Pacers.
If people
So
want
what's
to
going
hear James laugh at me and Jeff be way too politically correct before going, yeah, but I don't know, 7:45 earlier in the show. Can I throw some over-unders at you guys?
Absolutely.
Highest point total scored by a team in the NBA Finals. What do you think the over-under Vegas is set for the most points scored by a team in the Finals will be?
I am going to say I'll say 128.
Repeat the question again.
Highest point total scored by a team in the NBA Finals.
I'm gonna go lower. I'm gonna say 119 and a half or something.
Vegas has set it at 144 and a
Dang.
half.
That's just for one game, one team, though. at some
One
point in time.
game, one team. They have the largest margin
like
of
that.
victory at 32 and a half. You're telling me we're going to get a 35-point game potentially in the NBA Finals?
Hey, I mean, they think the Pacers are
I was
just gonna
gonna
get
say.
ran over.
Oh, I thought you were going
Man.
to say they think the Pacers are going to just pull out a big game in the middle like the
I
Minnesota
mean, either
Timberwolves
way,
did.
I don't think either team is gonna put 140 up.
Man.
To give you some context here, if the Pacers scored 140 points in a playoff game in the finals, it'll be the most points they ever scored in a playoff game ever.
I did think the Tony East stat yesterday. I think I had this right. I hope I'm saying. By the way, Tony East has let us know that he did visit the Buc-ee's. So thank you to our listeners out there. That Springfield, I believe, was the Buc-ee's that we directed him towards.
Yes, Kylan. Shout out Kylan.
On,
We got
Write
to
it
take you
down.
on a field trip, James.
I've
on,
been to Buc-ee's.
on his commute down there. Tony East shared yesterday that the Thunder have more double-digit wins this season than the Pacers have wins.
Ooh.
That is damn impressive. I mean, the Pacers won 50 games. It's not like the Pacers won 30.
That is crazy.
More double-digit wins. And, I said it, and I'll continue to say it leading in tomorrow night. Put them in clutch situations. Get them 5 minutes to go on the clock and make them work for it in the clutch. Make the music rise. I don't know if they do the organ down there at Oklahoma City, but just make that music rise a little bit. Get into those clutch situations and see if they can prove themselves. They've proved themselves a lot this year. They've had a historic season. But get game pressure onto their shoulders. And if you do that, maybe the clutchest team in the NBA here over the last month or two, the Indiana Pacers, can do something about it, make this series very, very interesting.
Now, I'm not saying you should or shouldn't, but if you want to make some money and you're a huge Indiana Pacers fan and you completely believe in them, you could do that right now on just about, whoa, I got a call right there.
Well, let's hear
Supposed
it.
to be off.
I
Should
was
we
about to
pick-
say,
should we pick it up?
man,
No, it says nursing for my mom's
I was about to say,
their mom's
thought it was
facility,
the.
so I may have to check that out during the break. But
It was Vegas calling.
I was about to say, you need to call
Yeah.
that number if they calling you to place a bet already.
our buddy Matt said probably meaningless, but this player prop analysis on Odds Trader has plus value for all overs on Pacers and plus value for all unders on OKC players.
Call that number, Jeff.
He said, let's go. Let's go. So I'm just saying, if you believe in your team that strongly, there are opportunities there.
Someone put $1, I think, on the Pacers way at the beginning, before even playoffs, and they won $84 with them getting to the finals. So,
Oh, nice.
hey, let's make something.
I was surprised. We had a listener reach out, and they had put $10 on the Pacers to win it all at the start of the playoffs. I think it was 10 to win. I believe it was $810. And their cash out opportunity right now is only like $100. I mean, wouldn't you
Oh,
let that ride?
Yeah, I gotta let that ride.
I think you let it ride, and you at least see what happens game one, game two. I'm a firm believer. If the Pacers win tomorrow night, I think they win the series. I think game one matters that much.
It's that.
I think it's
Serious
that big. And there's part of me that's like, Kevin, you're an idiot for putting this much stock on one game. But I think the ability to just send such a significant message of we are here. I sound like Joel Cornette right now. We are here. I mean, like that. if you are able to get game 1, I mean, I will pick the Thunder probably in 7, I guess, if we're making our firm predictions tomorrow. I've waffled between probably Thunder and 6 or 7, but if the Pacers get tomorrow night, boom, it's Pacers in 6, and I won't think twice about it.
So my question to you then is, do you think the Pacers can trail in this series and still win it? Like if they go down 0-1 and tie it up 1-1, if they go down 2-1 and they tie it up 2-2.
No, I like, and it's a great question. Because what if they get Sunday? What if they get Sunday and it's 1-1? There's something about getting the first game and making them have to kind of, I don't know. Jeff all of a sudden used the phrase earlier this week, bathe in it. If you have to bathe in it for a couple nights, as graphic as that sounds.
I'm still wallowing in that victory. I'm telling you.
Oh no, you can't. That's over, Jeff.
No,
have you
it's
heard
not.
Rick Carlisle? It is time to move on.
No, tomorrow morning I'll
the
move
series
on.
is here.
Still Victory Wednesday.
To answer your
morning is
question, though, James, no. I think trailing in the series is no. I mean,
see, that's why I'm like, if you're down,
because I think the
0-1
Pacers are at
and
their best when you have to chase them. I mean, we saw
That's
that in
true.
the Knicks series.
That's
We saw
true.
that in the Cleveland series. Like, I think a huge reason why, and I don't know, maybe Cleveland's a little bit different, but like, just focus on the Knicks for a second. The magnitude of the game 1 loss was so significant that I think it was worth 2. I don't know if you'd have the same sort of effect on Oklahoma City, but it would really create a whole lot of questioning. And if you look at that Denver series, Denver was up 1-0. Denver was also up 2-1 with a home game in game 4. You brought this up earlier in the show, James.
Yeah.
The Thunder won a slugfest in game 4 to get that back to 2-2, and that series still went 7. Now, I don't think there's a lot of apt comparisons between the Pacers and the Thunder. Jokic is he's just a different animal. And pace-wise, I think it's very different. But, boy, I just think tomorrow night matters so much. And I'm so happy I can finally say tomorrow night. I feel like every day this week has been Thursday.
I watched all 7 of those games, the Nuggets and Oklahoma City. The one thing I will tell you is they made Jokic's life very difficult. He ended up getting a lot of his numbers, but, man, did they make him work for it. He looked exhausted by the end of that series. The team looked exhausted. Like, how the Knicks looked exhausted in the second half of Game 6 the other night? The Nuggets looked dead at the very end of Game 6, which they won to keep the series alive, and then were just dead and had nothing in Game 7. The other thing is Oklahoma City got them to turn the ball over repeatedly in all of those games. Just the Nuggets did not take good care of the basketball, and I think it's Oklahoma City was the reason why.
We're going to see if Halliburton really is that maestro, and I think he is, but they're going to put a lot of pressure on him to make a lot of crazy plays, and it'll be up to Rick Carlisle and staff to kind of figure out ways to make sure that Halliburton is still effective. Even if they face guard him or, try to make sure they take him out of the game with physicality, what do you do to counter that? Because, as we've talked about, he has to show up every single night. This cannot be a night.
And he was really quiet in the 2 regular season games for him.
I know.
Now, I don't want to overread too much into random December, random March game, but Lou Dort is All-NBA first-team defense for a reason.
We'll talk more about the Pacers getting ready for Game 1 in Oklahoma City. The Fever keeping the Fieldhouse busy last night, getting back to their winning ways. Pat Boylan joins us top of the hour. It's all straight ahead on the Fan Morning Show with Kevin Bowen, James Boyd, Jeff Rickard, and Kylan Talley on a Wednesday morning. Still happy Victory Wednesday for me. I'll turn the page tomorrow for Game 1 of the NBA Finals, but until then, I'm enjoying every last second of this roll we've been on. How do you not get swept up in the excitement from the other night just an hour and a half after leaving?
It's because it was 2 years ago at this point, Jeff. I'm ready for Game 1.
Man.
We should do a poll. Have you moved on
No.
to Game 1 of the Finals, or are you still hanging on to Game 6 in the victory?
Celebrate it. And then tomorrow you wake up, and I don't have to play, so I can do whatever I want. Now, I understand the players got to focus back in.
I'm like, man, do you think real Pacers fans, diehard Pacers fans, do you think they're still attached to Game 6, or are they moving on to Game 1?
Oh, I think they moved on.
Do you?
Yeah.
All right.
Now, again, you celebrate, you think back, but damn, it's Wednesday. The Pacers are already in Oklahoma City. It's media day.
I'm
just letting y'all know these things don't happen all the time. Enjoy every second of it.
I'm enjoying it, but more of it is just like
the stitching's on the jersey. Yeah. It says NBA Finals on there.
Right.
LFG.
All right. I'll tell you who else has moved on finally. Their first win in the absence of Caitlin Clark, the Fever, last night. You were there, James. They beat the Washington Mystics by a score of 85-76. Time for our keys to the game, brought to you by the Hubler Automotive Group. As always, Hubler's got you covered for 200,000 miles. Kelsey Mitchell, Lexi Hall, and Ari McDonald had the Fever covered last night, JB. Tell me about it.
Yes, I thought Ari McDonald did a phenomenal job of giving them just some stabilization at the point guard spot. Hadn't played in a WNBA game since last year against the Fever, and so kind of a full circle moment for her. She was just saying how hard it is to stay ready, but she was proud of herself, how she performed. 5 assists, no turnovers, 3 steals, 7 points, I believe, as well. And Lexi Hull, like you mentioned throughout the show, Jeff, great offensive game, great all-around game, and then Kelsey Mitchell closed them out late.
Those are your Hubler Automotive Group keys to the game. Again, as always, Hubler's got you covered for 200,000 miles, and they will play again on Saturday at Chicago. Caitlin Clark should be reevaluated before the next road game, which would be Tuesday at Atlanta, and then they play at home a week from Saturday against New York. To me, Kevin, it feels like that might be a better game to see Caitlin Clark back than that last road game. What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, I mean, again, if she is reevaluated in 2 weeks, 2 weeks would literally be that Atlanta game. So I can't imagine that. Yeah, I would say, what'd you say, New York a week from Saturday?
Yeah, New York at home a week from Saturday.
All right, Jonathan put 60 on the Pacers on February 9th. 60 to win it all.
Ooh.
Boy, that seems like a kind of a random date. I guess they played better in January, didn't they? $60 on the Pacers to win it all on February 9th. That is 60 to win $9,600.
Let's go.
He cashed out.
Do you blame him? What did he cash it out for, I wonder?
$1,100.
That's
No.
$1,100 on $60 is.
Yeah, you got
He said he didn't want to risk it dropping all the way to 80.
No, I
Man's
respect
got
that.
bills to
Had
pay
they
too.
lost
Let's go.
game 1 or
No,
2.
that's a dub. I'm never
Yeah,
gonna
good
knock
work.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, good work, Jonathan.
Yeah. I know you for a long time, you were promoting one of those buyback sites. I think that's just smart play sometimes, especially if you got a long shot and you're this close and you can get that much money off it. Man, every time.
Indeed.
Every time. So I wonder, it's a 9.5 point underdog right now for the Indiana Pacers while we're talking about that stuff going into game 1. And that's just, to straighten things up just a little bit. If you wanted to, for example, go on the money line for this team, you're getting plus 320 right now.
James, Pacer player that matters the most to you, not named Halliburton or Siakam in this series?
You're about to say something and you checked yourself.
I'm trying to think because it's hard.
I'm playing O's the Mentalist looking at him right now.
All right,
You're
well, I'm
about to say something.
I'm going to go Miles Turner because I think the paint.
Is that who you were always thinking, or were you going to go?
No, I mean, I could go Nembhard, I could go Neesmith, and I feel like those are fine answers.
Yeah.
I'm going to go Miles Turner. I think that Miles Turner has to have a big series. He's got to be able to knock down some shots, keep some of those bigs, I think, out of the paint, which will help create some things offensively for the Pacers. Then on the other end, I know it's not his strong suit, but he can't have like the 2 rebound games, 3 rebound games. I'm not saying you got to go out there and be Dennis Rodman, but you got to go out there and give him 6, 7, 8 boards just to give him a chance to, one, make sure that OKC doesn't get extra possessions, and then you potentially get extra possessions.
Yeah, Chet Holmgren didn't play in either of the 2 regular season matchups. We talked a little bit about it yesterday. Isaiah Hartenstein was I thought, a really key contributor in that Knicks series last year against the Pacers. So, that's kind of the two big approach. We'll see how much the Thunder play those two bigs. They go pretty small if they don't go with those two. Just pretty much a bunch of wings, honestly, is the best way to probably describe it. A bunch of 6'6" to 6'8" dudes if they're not playing those two. Yeah, I would go Nembhard. I just think a little bit as I think he could be on Shea. Again, I would start Neesmith on him, but Nembhard obviously is going to get some run on him as well. But if Oklahoma City takes the approach of all our eggs in the limiting Halliburton basket, obviously Halliburton still needs to try and get around that. Yeah. But if he is quieted in any way, then Nembhard as an offensive facilitator and playmaker is going to be huge. And that one wrinkle the Knicks threw at them late in the series of putting OG on Nembhard was interesting. That was a little different wrinkle than I think some teams have adopted. So yeah, if you're going to make me pick, it would have been Neesmith last round. That answer for me this round will be Nembhard.
All right, we'll discuss all this with Pat Boylan coming up in a few minutes here as the pregame and postgame host of the Pacers will join us here on the Payless Liquors hotline. In the meantime, before we get to break real quick, I do want to go to the phone lines because this could be interesting here. Steve says his son is sitting on a big winner going into this series. Steve, what do you got going on for the morning show this morning? Thanks for being here.
Hey, guys. So I passed along my fandom for the Pacers and my love of gambling to my son. He's married about a year, got a new kid. So all year long he's been.
I love how this is starting, by the way, Steve.
Yeah,
you got a new kid.
He bought him
at the store.
Congrats on your grandson or granddaughter.
He might be living in your basement if this doesn't go well, right?
First grandkid. So he all year long when he would win a little bet, a football bet or anything into the fall when the Pacers season started, he would take $2 or $3 when he cashed out and put it on Pacers to win it all. Pacers to win it all, back when the odds were ridiculous. And he just kept doing that all year long. And now he has 35 bets that add up to a payout of around $55,000 if the Pacers win.
Dear Lord.
Does he want to cash that out now for, I don't know, 10 grand?
Here's the problem. Oklahoma City is such a prohibitive favorite that he can't even do a big hedge bet on the other side. I offered to front him some money, put 10 grand or 20 grand there to win, but on 10 grand, you only win $1,000.
Yeah.
This is parenting 101 right here.
He's talking about on the other side to hedge the bet there, James.
Now, Steve, I'm just saying the fact that you could just drop $10K.
I think at this point you got to bank on or hope for game 1 or game 2 win. If the Pacers win 1 or 2, now you've got some big time decisions to make.
That's exactly right, Kevin, because right now there's no buyout option, but if the Pacers were to split or somehow get to 2 wins in the series, then he's going to be putting some money away for the 529 plan.
How about this?
I like
How
it.
about this?
That is awesome.
Sit down at your family birthdays and holidays, and you could be discussing this. Steve, thank you and good luck, and congrats on the first grandchild.
I love the strategy of just a bunch of little small bets for the price of a cup of coffee. He put down 35 bets, and now it's turned into this.
That's some chess, not checkers there.
Yeah, you said, for him to go sit down, Steve, not Kevin, but Steve will have to stand up, I think, in his son for most of these games. I don't think I will be able to, function. We talk about us, can't wait for game 1. This dude ain't sleeping.
No.
Yeah. Can you imagine, though, the kitchen
waking
conversation?
Up with sweat on his brow at 1 a.m.
Steve brings his son in and says, here's how you really want to do it. And they just go through an entire masterclass of how you want to get this done over the course of the year. I love that. Coming up in a moment, Pat Boylan stops by. He will tell us how things are going for the Indiana Pacers, who had a little bit of a delay getting to Oklahoma City yesterday, but they got there. They're ready to go. They'll meet the media today, tip tomorrow night. It's all straight ahead. 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan. Hello, 9 o'clockers. Welcome into the Fan Morning Show with James Boyd, Kevin Bowen, Jeff Riggin, Kylan Talley. Mad at her board just a moment ago, froze up on her a little bit, but you got it back. I like the fact she just called
Just
that
about
was,
like the Pacers. Yeah. They catch it in game. We do it.
We like that. Our next guest, I'm very happy to welcome him to the Fan Morning Show. Everybody knows who he is. You see him on TV. You see him doing Fever games. He does all of the great work around the Indiana Pacers.
He never says
He never says he's one of the few guys that every once in a while I'm like, man, Pat Boylan. I wish I was that guy.
Wow, does he
he's
not?
He's young. He's good looking. He wears great clothes. He looks buttoned up all the time. He never makes a mistake. And he joins us now on the Fan Morning Show on the Payless Liquors Hotline. Live up to that, Pat Boylan.
Man, I don't know what I did to deserve that, but I appreciate it very much. It's a good start to my day, and talking with you guys is always a good start to the day.
So how was your day? How'd that go yesterday? I'm guessing you're with the team?
I am not with the team. I had the Fever broadcast.
Oh, that's right.
Yesterday.
Yeah.
I had the Fever broadcast yesterday, so was not a part of those interesting travel challenges getting in, but I will be headed that direction here soon.
All right, looking forward to that. So, they were making fun of me a minute ago because I said that I'm still bathing in the afterglow of what happened this past weekend, and I will not turn the page myself until tomorrow when it's time to play the Oklahoma City Thunder. What has the vibe been like, for lack of a better term, on campus with the Pacers the last few days?
Yeah, I think pretty similar. I think Saturday night was just such a spectacular experience. I kept thinking during the game that either they're going to win this and it's going to be something that you remember for a long time, or hopefully it's not a game that you lament for a long time. They, of course, would have still had that opportunity to win out in New York, but the way the series is set up, when you are not the team with home court advantage, even when you get up 3-1, you've really only got one really good shot at it, which is your home game. And so it kind of felt like, in a lot of ways, years had been building up for this singular moment, this game at Gainbridge Fieldhouse, and for the Pacers to, win it in the way that they did, fairly emphatically going away. It just felt like they could do nothing wrong in the second half. And yeah, I would say bathing in the afterglow is a pretty good way to put it. I think from a player's perspective, obviously you have to turn the page. I think it was nice that there's a few days between that final Eastern Conference Finals game and the NBA Finals starting tomorrow to get to enjoy it and celebrate it. They turn the page a lot quicker than we have to. Working with the Fever, I kind of quickly had to turn over to a Fever mindset for the game last night. But in general, I think you have to take the time to celebrate this because, look, hopefully we're talking about a bigger celebration in a couple of weeks, but this doesn't happen all the time. It had been 25 years. I think back, and I know everybody's done this kind of math, but I was 9 years old the last time that this happened, and I remember it, but couldn't really appreciate it as much as I should have been able to. So I hope all Pacers fans have had the ability to just kind of do what you're talking about, Jeff, to just kind of bask in this and enjoy it. And hopefully we're talking about doing more of that in a couple of weeks, but each of these steps are rarer and rarer each time that you take them in terms of winning a playoff series and getting deeper and deeper into the playoffs. And so you never know when this is going to come around again, hopefully very soon, but hopefully everybody's had that opportunity to enjoy it too.
Pat, I am team on to game one already, and this scenario certainly was a great atmosphere in game 6 the other night. But looking ahead to the finals, what do you think will be the key to the Pacers kind of pulling this thing out? They're obviously heavy underdogs. I don't read so much into that, but what do you think will be some of the different things they have to do, particularly when it comes to the offensive end, to make sure they can exploit what has been, for the most part, an impenetrable OKC defense?
Yeah, and that's really where I start is the Pacers offensively versus Oklahoma City defensively. They're an incredible defensive team. They turn you over at a really high rate. I haven't really decided if this is a positive or a negative or a challenge, but Oklahoma City just statistically has done a lot of the things the Pacers do well at an even higher level throughout the year, throughout the playoffs. And the Pacers, they are top 3 in not turning the ball over in the regular season. I think Oklahoma City's number 1. They force tons of turnovers. And so to me, that's kind of where you start is with the Pacers offensively. They've got to take good care of the ball. I mean, that's an absolute must. If you are allowing Oklahoma City, frankly, to do a lot of the things the Pacers have done on their trip here and getting to the finals, well, then you're going to, I think, probably have a hard time. And then, Tyrese Halliburton is always such an important player in all of this in a different way than I think most superstars are. When you think of maybe Anthony Edwards or some of the others that they played, Jokic, I think, would fall more into Halliburton's category here. But you think of stars and they've got to get their 30 points. Well, Tyrese doesn't need to do that, but Tyrese does need to be able to have the type of effectiveness where he can set everybody else up, where he's getting 2 feet into the paint, where he's getting assists, where he's getting other guys open, because the margin for error with this Oklahoma City defense is just so small. I mean, I think about game number 6 and how many times, and this almost got to a point where, if I was Tom Thibodeau or on the Knicks staff, I would have been almost embarrassed how many times the Pacers beat them back after a made bucket. I mean, that can happen to you maybe once, and then you say, okay, we got to be ready for this, or we should have known the Pacers were going to do this. But it felt like Pascal Siakam was just constantly beating the Knicks back in Game 6 and in other games in the series too. I just couldn't believe it was happening in such a pivotal game, and it erased a lot of the momentum I think New York was trying to build. Well, look, I don't want to say never on that, but that's just something that Oklahoma City doesn't allow. So in general, I think the margins for error are just so small, but you have to take care of the ball. And then when you've got such good defenders, you aren't probably going to have so many wide open shots or so many opportunities like you maybe have had in previous rounds. And they played good defensive teams too, the Pacers. I mean, Cleveland's a really good one, and New York is nothing to sneeze at, even though, they had some challenges with the pace of the Pacers. But I think Halliburton doing his thing and getting 2 feet into the paint and then going from there and setting everybody else up is so vitally important, because there's no question that everybody else on this team is at their best when Halliburton is at his best. And so there's a long list of keys, in my opinion, but I think you probably start there.
Pat Boylan, of course, Fever TV. You heard him last night as Fever ended a 3-game losing streak, and Pacers Radio. He's with us here on the Payless Liquor sideline. You saw it last night, Pat. The 3-point line mattered a whole lot in that game. If you look at these two teams so far in this playoff run, the Pacers are the best 3-point shooting team here in the postseason. The Thunder are 13th. Remember, there's only 16 playoff teams. Do you view that as a major area of advantage? The 3-point line can be the great equalizer, or is it one of these things where, oh boy, shooting variance isn't something you can bank on series after series after series?
Yeah, I think you probably have to look at any areas that the Pacers have a statistical advantage in, and ones that, they have to continue to do that. I think a lot of that is how Oklahoma City plays, and when your best player, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, is capable but not a big-time 3-point shooter, that probably has a lot to do with it. I don't know that they're so much a team that struggles there as one that has strengths in other areas. And I mean, look, when you win 68 games and have the best point differential in NBA history, and I think the second best net rating in history behind the 96 Bulls, I think that's correct, you don't have many weaknesses. So the Pacers, on the other hand, if you think of their playoff run here so far, they were 4-1 against Milwaukee. They won that series in 5. What they did against Cleveland was spectacular. To beat the Cavs would have been impressive, but to win in 5 was spectacular, and that was a 64-win team too. So while I do understand very much so, I've gotten to see them in person. Oklahoma City is an incredible basketball team, and I understand why they're the favorites. I would also say beating a 64-win Cleveland team in 5 games is as impressive as beating the Thunder potentially in a series in 6 or 7. The Cavs just had a incredible regular season too, and the Pacers dispatched of them pretty easily. And if you look at all 3 playoff series, Indiana's 12-4. That's really hard to do when you're taking on only good teams in the playoffs. So the Pacers have been a team that's been both hot but executing at a really high level for a long time. I mean, we've discussed this, and you have certainly on your show with other guests and amongst yourselves. The Pacers have been one of the top teams in the NBA, not just for the playoffs, not just since January 1, but really since early December. And so, yes, they're the 4 seed, and yes, you see those statistics about, I think only 1 seed beyond the top 3 has ever won the NBA Finals. But the Pacers really from early December on are probably more like a 2 seed. Now, they're a 4 seed because they had that 10-15 start, and you can't ignore it. But my point would be that for the last 5 months, this has been a team operating at a pretty elite level. Now, nobody has operated at Oklahoma City's level yet, but I think that's your hope in the gap not being all that big, is if you look at the difference between maybe Indiana and Oklahoma City from their record, there is a significant difference there, 18 wins. But if you were to look at it from December on or January 1st on, the two teams are a lot closer, and that's when the Pacers really turned into this version of themselves. So they've been hot in the playoffs, but they've really been playing, I think, at this level for a long time. And you just hope that everything that's gone well here so far carries over, albeit against a much tougher opponent. And I think the three-point line is something that absolutely has to be advantage Pacers in this series. But I do think it will be, in part because, the game that Shai Gilgeous-Alexander plays is just so different. And the good news there is Jalen Brunson is not Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, but I think you got a pretty good test in the last round on how to defend a player like that who is so shifty, who is so adept at getting to the foul line and drawing those type of calls. Well, the next best player after Shai Gilgeous-Alexander at that is probably either Brunson or James Harden, and the Pacers just got a 6-game dose on Jalen Brunson in the last round.
Pat Boylan joining us on the Payless Liquors hotline, of course, part of the Pacers network radio broadcast, and he does the play-by-play for the Fever on TV. And last night we saw the Fever win without Caitlin Clark for the first time. But I see a man on a plane in the next few days. If you're going to Oklahoma City, you've got to be doing a game at Chicago. I'm thinking, do you do the game Chicago and Saturday?
So I will never enjoy, in general, losing a game to national TV. But in this instance, it's not the worst thing in the world for us. So this is an ESPN exclusive game, I believe, in Chicago. So we'll have it right there on the radio, but it will not be a TV broadcast. So that makes the finals trip planning just a little bit easier. So I'll get into Oklahoma City and be able to be there for games 1 and 2. I'll be watching that Fever game on Saturday along with everybody else and be listening to the call of John Nolan and Bria Goss right here, but we'll not have the game on TV, which makes life just a little bit easier from a scheduling perspective.
Because you do have Atlanta on Tuesday, right?
That is correct, yes. So we'll get home from Oklahoma City and then go right to Atlanta. Is it a little hectic? Yes, but I mean, I couldn't ask for anything else. This has been just a thrilling and incredible run, and sleep is rescheduled for July.
I like it. Thanks so much for getting up and doing this early this morning. We appreciate that. Good luck traveling to Oklahoma City, and bring back 1 of 2, if not 2. How about that?
Hey, we'll try our best, and appreciate you having me, guys.
There you go. Pat Boylan joining us here on the Payless Liquors hotline.
Pat has some height. He's got some height now.
I know.
Until bring back 2, he might throw him out there. Put him on SGA.
Has he got any game?
He's got 6 fouls.
Has he got any
might have to
game?
use him. I don't know. I have to ask Pat that.
What is he? He's probably legit 6'4", 6'5".
Yeah, no, he's
right?
legitimately tall. So I'm not
6'5"
joking. Throw him on
might be
SGA
stretching it.
and use those fouls, brother.
But seriously, I love Pat Boylan. The dude, he's got it going on.
No,
he's got it going on.
I thought him and Debbie did a great job last night in telling the Arie McDonald story. I thought that was, and James, you can speak to this. So basically for fans that haven't paid attention to the Fever's current situation, since Caitlin Clark went down, they've had other injuries to ball handlers. It's a little bit like the Pacers center situation at the start of the year, where, I'm trying to think, who was the first guy they got? Moses Brown, was that it?
Yes.
Wow.
So he was as tall as ever. He looked like a redwood. Like, that is the largest human being I've ever seen in my life.
That might be the oldest thing that you've ever said after what you said earlier.
I'm so serious. That is the biggest person I've seen up close, outside of like Women Yamba. That was amazing. But go ahead.
They had Moses Brown. Obviously, they settled on Thomas Bryant, and even Tony Bradley came into the fold. So the Fever point guard, they're desperate right now. They signed Arie McDonald, who was the 3rd overall pick.
Yes.
4 years ago.
2021. Yes.
3rd overall pick 4 years ago, and yet was out of the league as of Sunday. She has 1 practice with the team. Last night, 7 points, 5 assists, 0 turnovers. She took a charge. I loved her spunky energy. Frankly, I think she should play over Sydney Colson. But, James, I thought, I know you were there, but I thought Pat and Debbie did a really good job telling her story. And really, it's kind of a unique story that only the WNBA has, because it's a league with now 13 teams, and you do see these high draft picks quite often really not last in the league at all.
So a question for you guys. Is your Payless Liquors player of the game going to be Kelsey Mitchell with 24, or Arie McDonald, who comes from nowhere give him 27 solid minutes with 7 points and playing all ends of the floor.
I'll go Aerie, and I think a lot of the players gave her flowers after the game as well, with some of the energy, some of the pace. I thought even just making a couple shots out there, she looked really, really comfortable for someone, again, who had one practice. And Stephanie White said after the game, they were running plays they hadn't even gone over because she had watched them on film. They didn't even have time to go over it in practice, but they trusted her film review and just ran it, and she was able to do it, again, to a pretty good degree with no turnovers.
They got the win. Player of the Game is brought to you after every game by Payless Liquors. Get more, pay less at Payless Liquors as the Fever win it by a score of 85-76. More on that and more on Game 1 happening right now. All right, James, I'll be making the mental and emotional transition today of moving away from the giddiness of the Eastern Conference Championship and the reality of, I guess, as a fan, I guess I'm going to have to be locked in, too, for Game 1.
Absolutely. Everybody's got to be locked in. No sitting. What do they say at the Pacers games? You don't sit for the tip, so you got to get up, exactly, and stand in front of your TV whenever they get ready to go on tomorrow night. But, Jeff, it'll be obviously a great test for this team, and I see somebody in the YouTube chat saying, don't freak out after Game 1. So I guess I'll say that to Kevin Bowen. Don't freak out after Game 1 if things don't go their way. But, again, you got to play the game. So I feel like they can go out there and steal it.
Kevin showed up with tattoos, brand new tattoos today because of the win, right?
Yeah, I know. You asked me if I got burned on my arm. No, I got a shark tattoo and a sun tattoo. Can you imagine getting burnt? I mean, on any part of your body. Right. Can you imagine right there how bad that would hurt? Inner elbow.
Well, it looked like maybe you like had your elbow bent inward and something.
I thought it was the We Grow Hair Indie, and you had the flat iron out and you cut your arm.
That's what I was thinking too. But no, they're the temporary tattoos. Hanging out with Rosie last night.
Sorry,
right?
I've not showered since 8 p.m. last night. But yes, last night the kids wanted to put tattoos on me, and then I had to guess what the tattoo was. So
all right.
There you go.
Well, there you go. Did you guess correctly or not?
No, I think I guessed a watermelon instead of a summer theme was the hint, and I was wrong.
There is your preview for Game 1 of Oklahoma City and Indiana right there. We'll talk more about it as the hour goes along. Of course, we just had Pat Boylan on. We've been discussing it all morning long, but 8 o'clock is the radio network broadcast time tomorrow night. 8:30 is the scheduled tip, and James, you know how that goes on TV, and they'll drag that out, so probably about 8:50.
I was about to say, let's hope it's 8:37.
Yeah.
Do they announce the whole rosters for Game 1 of the NBA Finals?
I'm actually not sure
Do we
about
have one
that.
of those games?
I'm usually team turn it on at the very last minute and miss everything pregame because I'm just ready to watch the game. So
JMV will have a special pregame to the pregame tomorrow night, too.
That sounds like such a JMV thing.
So he goes till 8 tomorrow?
Yeah, he goes till 8 o'clock tomorrow night, 3 to 8. How about
do
that?
some work, JMV.
Gotta love that. Also,
hardest working man in radio.
Yep, there you go. Also, from the NBA yesterday, Tom Thibodeau out as the head coach of the New York Knicks. Kevin Bowen, your thoughts? When you saw that, were you surprised, or did you go, I kind of get it?
I mean, if any franchise is going to do something like that, it is certainly going to be the New York Knicks, so no shock there. But, yeah, I mean, I felt bad for Tibbs. I mean, honestly, when you look at what the Knicks franchise has been like for the previous
got better every year that he was there.
17 years, it's kind of laughable that they would do that. So, Jay Wright on line 1. Maybe the Pope is putting in a call to James Dolan for Jay Wright.
Or I'm thinking Michael Malone, former Nuggets
What about
coach.
Vogel?
I think
I like
Frank,
that pick, actually.
He knows big
He's dealt
markets.
with
He
stars.
did okay with the Lakers and LeBron and that whole thing. That'd be a thought. I would think that they would first call Michael Malone, is what I'm hearing, though.
What you're hearing? Oh, you're reporting. You like Shams.
No, I mean, I've been around guys in the league for a long time. I'm not Shams, but
Rickard bombs dropping.
No,
breaking news sounder here from Kylan.
Yeah. If you got sources,
I'm just saying that's what I'm hearing.
Okay, that's what you're hearing. Jeff is an NBA insider, NFL insider, and radio morning show guy.
I gave the insider thing up a long time ago, but I still know people.
Okay,
that's how that goes.
All right.
But that again, who knows what James Dolan is going to do? Who knows what he's going to do?
No backtracking. You got to stand on your sources, man.
By the way, shout out to the great Evan Sherill.
I did not report that, James Boyd.
In studio here from ClusterTruck. We got some wings. I almost said Colleen Bowen. Maddie Bowen got some wings on Saturday night. Excellent there. Nice. It's the final day in May, so we had to get the Kevin Bowen burger one final time.
We're going to talk to him in a minute here.
Fan promo.
I'm going to bring him on here. He's got some things to say. He's got real things to say.
Oh.
Unlike the three of us. Like he's getting work done back here. So I want to acknowledge that.
I'll let Evan slide in because I think he needs a mic.
We'll do that in a second here. Finish up the little Jiffy Lube check down right here. We'll tell you Major League Baseball yesterday. Cubs got the win. The Reds got the win. They hung on late, and the St. Louis Cardinals lost at home to the Kansas City Royals 10-7. Indians lost to Memphis 4-2. They'll play again tonight. Anything else you want to throw in before we take a break and get Evan in here?
Yeah, I think a really cool visit Indy, Indiana Sports Corp. USA Swimming announced yesterday the trials back here in 2028. So last summer, I thought that was awesome. 8-day event, 285,000 people across 17 sessions. Not every year do you get the NBA Finals to show up in your city in June. So for a mid-late June sports calendar that can be a little dry, I guess no pun intended with the swim theme, I thought that was awesome. That not only they turned Lucas Oil Stadium into that venue, but it clearly resonated to have it back here coming up in 2028. And just a reminder, the 2028 Olympics are in LA, and SoFi, the home of the Rams, will host the actual swim event. So really torchbearers in that by USA Swimming and Visit Indy and the Sports Corp, everybody involved with that. So awesome to see them coming back here in a couple summers.
The athlete introductions there are the coolest I have ever seen at any event from any time, anywhere.
Well, and I said this about the event. I think oftentimes you see cities try to do something crazy, try to do something outside of the box, and logistically, it's a nightmare. And the athletes are the ones complaining about it. The athletes are the ones like, hey, it looked cool, but this was not efficient.
I did see a world record there that I was there.
And no athlete complained at all. They loved it. They loved the efficiency of it, the logistics around it. And for this week, if you see some swimmers downtown, the Toyota Championships over at the Natatorium, so they got kind of part of why they announced it when they did.
Cool stuff. All right, we'll continue to talk about Game 1 coming up tomorrow night with the Pacers and the Oklahoma City Thunder. But I got real work to get done here with our good guy Evan here from ClusterTruck. We'll do that next here at 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan. Along with Kevin Bowen, James Boyd, Kylan Talley, I'm Jeff Rickard this morning. I am not ashamed to tell you, James Boyd, I spent the entire break eating the Southwest wrap from ClusterTruck, and it's not a bad thing at all.
Yeah, it's like Christmas every week.
I may be
so-
going back for more tomorrow.
Yeah, we got somebody here from ClusterTruck with some things to talk about.
Not just somebody, the man. Evan Sherill joining us from ClusterTruck here. And first of all, congratulations on the Southwest wrap, which I think you just rolled out this week, right?
Yeah, just launched on Sunday, and it is
Ugh.
delicious. It is favorite wrap for the summer for sure.
Well, as much as we love your stuff, and the guys
too
give me
close to the mouth.
yeah,
Oh, you got to get your face.
you get it right there. You got to
like a
eat. We call
faceless person
it.
for a
We
second.
say you got to eat that mic, man.
That's how I like to do it with JMV too. I hide the mic in front of my face. Nobody on the YouTube chat can see me.
I like it. No, I mean these guys will tell you they make fun of me all the time because I might go to war for the Korean broccoli and beef. Korean beef and broccoli is good stuff, but it's not why we have you in here today. Amongst the great stuff that you do with ClusterTruck too, I know you and your wife very involved in a very close to your heart and a very important fundraiser coming up in just a little over a month here. Is it right about a month out or getting close to it?
July 11th.
Okay.
So Friday, July 11th. I think a little bit over a month.
So
still,
tell us
but-
about it. What's going
Yeah,
on?
so my wife and I are the beneficiary couple with this amazing organization called Birdies for Babies Indy. They're a nonprofit organization. Every year they select a local couple that's going through IVF and sponsor them with a golf outing. And so all of the proceeds raised from that golf outing then are donated back to the two of us to use to cover the costs of our IVF journey. So we've been doing IVF since about 2023. Had a couple transfers so far. No success with that just yet. So we're trying again this year. And the cost for one retrieval and transfer is somewhere around $30,000.
Oh wow!
Yeah. So this is a huge blessing for us, and we're looking for foursomes, sponsors, any kind of raffle items. That could be anything from like a $10 gift card to a bottle of booze to a signed jersey. Anything. So. Yeah, I just appreciate the time to come on here and talk about it and spread the word. And if you want to find out more information, you can go to bfbindy.com. That's not the correct. Let me get the correct. It's golfinvite.net/bfbindy.
Say that one more time.
golfinvite.net/bfbindy.
Okay. And that's the best way to do it and go about that. But what a fantastic thing for an organization to do. And I know they can't only do that for one couple, but man, that's fantastic for you guys. I wanted to get the word out there. I would suggest people can book in their golf seasons. They could go do yours there and then come back and do ours in August.
Absolutely.
That's the way to do it.
That's my plan. Yeah.
I like it. You're invited to the August tournament. I'll tell you right now.
Yeah. No, I'm planning to be there. I think my brother and I will be getting a foursome together for that, so that'll be very cool. But yeah, I mean, like I said, it's just a huge blessing. They're a great organization, and if it's something that you're going through as well, you're not alone in it, and that's something that has been super helpful for my wife and I. And they have their 2026 application open for that couple as well for next year.
And I had shared my story with you because my wife and I thought that was the road that we were going to have to go down. We had been together already for about 3.5 years, and it wasn't for lack of trying, man. We were practicing as hard as we could, right? But there was a certain point where we went to see a doctor to say, hey, is there anything wrong here with either one of us? And we went and we did a couple of days of tests and did all the stuff that they do. I'm sure you guys have been through that too. And in our case, fortunately and thankfully and blessedly, my wife was actually pregnant. We found out the time that we did that testing, she was like 3 weeks pregnant.
Yeah.
And so we found
That's
out
awesome.
about 2 or 3 weeks after that she actually was pregnant. But that's what we were looking at as well. So I've not been where you've been, but that was the road that we were on. And so I think this is amazing that an organization can help a couple like you guys out. And you do such great things around the community in general with ClusterTruck and all the fundraisers that you guys have with the Kevin Bowen Burger and things like that through the time. I want to make sure you guys got a little bit of sun too.
Well, I appreciate that. Yeah. We've been together for, just over 8 or 9 years now. Putting on the spot, that's not good, but yeah. But
it's early in the morning. That's all.
Yeah.
A lot of numbers coming at me, hon. That's all it was.
No, but we appreciate the transparency though, for real.
Yeah,
I think a lot of
course.
times anytime you go through anything, right, you want to just know that, okay, I'm not the only person in the world experiencing this. So I respect a lot of that strength, man, because it's not easy to talk about these things, but you make it seem that way, and I'm sure you're probably helping somebody else who's listening.
Yeah, absolutely. And she's been with me through everything. I had testicular cancer just out of college at the age of like 22, and then again a few years later. So it's been a real stressful situation, but finding organizations like this, it's just like, I don't know, such a nice thing. And like I said, I just keep saying it's a huge blessing. So we're super grateful, and if anybody wants to golf with us, sponsor us, put up a raffle item, you can contact us via that link.
All right, say that link one more time because I know it goes fast for people.
Yep, it's golfinvite.net/BFBindy.
BFB. All right. Looking forward to that. How did the Kevin Bowen Burger do in the race for charity in the month of May?
Yes.
We need to know. I'm keeping score over here.
Yes, it did do really well. I have not ran the final numbers. I know it did not do as well as the Connor Daly Burger. That
You
name
got pipped in turn 4.
that
Kevin.
name carries some weight to it.
Leading the Indy 500 or drinking beers with someone in turn 1 of the Indy 500. Those are the comps that you're going with there.
Yeah, but I can tell you the Kevin Bowen Burger was my personal favorite. I had it probably a couple too many times throughout the month of May, and that supported the IU Simon Cancer Center. So that's just a huge thing for us, and a great organization to sponsor. So super grateful that you were on for this year.
Oh, Evan, I got coffee with Ashley Wall from the IU Simon Cancer Center a few weeks back, and she's huge in the Chuck Strong Gala. We of course have Chuck Pagano on around that each year, and both of us just couldn't stop echoing what a great human you are. So not only are you playing golf at Purgatory Golf Course, which is a great golf course,
Yes.
coming up on Friday, July 11th, you're supporting an unbelievable human, and again, you've had a few friends that have had to go through the IVF journey, and sadly, it sounds like hell, honestly. And financially, you just mentioned the numbers. It's earth-shattering how much it does cost, and that doesn't even guarantee anything, which is one of the more brutal aspects to it all. So if you can help in any way, shape, or form, we'll make sure we send out that link socially. If you scroll my timeline, I know I've done it before, but I'll retweet that here coming up Friday, July 11th, 1 o'clock, shotgun at the Great Purgatory Golf Course. And let's be honest, when you play Purgatory and you're playing a shotgun, you don't have to be in one of their million bunkers that they have on that golf course. So the perfect time to play Purgatory.
Yes.
That's how you do that. By the way, huge sports fan Evan is as well. He's already here with his NBA Finals 2025
Where'd you
logo
get that?
Pacers
Is that
hat.
gift shop?
That
Yeah.
was sharp.
We went to Dick's Sporting Goods right
Ah,
after.
wow.
Yeah, day after. So
They were on it.
Yeah, they were
And
on
you got
it.
the quarter zip, the All-Star quarter zip?
Yeah, this was a
You look
thrift store
good.
find. So this
Wow.
one I was super happy to
Already
stumble
a
upon.
thrift store find. That
Yeah,
didn't take long, did it?
Nope, not at all. It was we went to Dick's Sporting Goods the day after. They opened at like 7. We got there around like 10, so they had already ran through a ton of stuff. They were loading in more merch. So I'm not the only one in the hat, but it's been getting a lot of compliments. So I'm
I dig
grateful
it,
for
man.
that.
You
Looks
look
good
good,
on you.
brother.
Thank
It looks
you guys.
good on you.
Thank
That's how
you
you
guys.
go. It is a good-looking hat. Thanks for stopping by. We'll talk about this one or two more times before we get this going on. But we wanted as much as anything. Thank you for all you do, not just for the race time, but for the community. I think it's really cool what you guys do, and we're all, whatever it is, sending good vibes, prayers, whatever your thing is, man. Send them to Evan and his wife, and we'll move on from there. All right.
I appreciate that very much. Thank you guys for making the time.
And the Southwest
chirp,
wrap
brother.
is
Chirp.
I know you're a big Cardinal fan.
Southwest wrap is really good.
Beautiful. I love to hear that. I love to
Not
hear
gonna
that.
lie. All right, coming up in a moment, we will give you the Scotty Johnston Jiffy Lube stat of the day. Get ready to go for, as you say it, what? One more sleep, Kevin? One more sleep, and then we're there. It's all coming up next, 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan. I'm telling you, when you stop eating at 6 o'clock in the evening and you don't eat again until 10 o'clock the next day and ClusterTruck comes, like, keep your food close to yourself is all I'm saying, Kevin. That's all I'm saying. I did not realize the carrots and celery were yours.
You want to give some context to the listeners out there who may not know what's going on?
Yes, we got our delivery from ClusterTruck, and then there was a bag of carrots and celery, and I put it on the table, and I thought it was just like a condiment that they threw in for everybody. Turns out that it was specifically ordered by Kevin Bowen. So as I started to open the package, he's like, whoa. I'm like, what? And then he said that he had ordered those, so I apologize for
look like a kid deep in there getting the fun dip out, getting those fingers in there.
I'm the guy, though, when I go to the parties, I'm the guy that eats the carrot and the celery that everybody puts out there. I'm that dude.
Fan promo code. Thank you to Evan Sherill again if you missed it. An unbelievable dude, and him and his wife going through a whole lot.
Evan's got a kick out of that story, by the way.
Golf outing coming up July 11th to help them out at Purgatory, so you can check that out.
But moving forward, like if I can get to it and you haven't claimed it within 5 or 10 minutes, I may just go for it.
Yeah,
dang.
Seems like common decency to eat what you order and kind of move on from there.
I didn't know you had specifically ordered that. I thought it came with the order, I thought, with everybody. So.
James, NBA Finals Media Day. What is this just is this Super Bowl Media Day? I can't recall any time I've ever paid attention to NBA Finals Media Day. Should I pay attention to it?
Maybe. I'm not so sure about how it all works. So I guess my challenge to the Pacers is next year get home court advantage for the finals. That way I can experience, the home setting for Media Day. But I would imagine a lot of it is just for
international media.
Yeah, international media, national media. If you're trying to do the last second stories on the teams and things like that, I expect a lot of players, and I'm not sorry, not players, writers and producers want to drop, big stories on the day of the finals with so much leading up to the time of tip-off that night. I'll have my own story actually on a prominent Pacers player. I'll leave it at that. And so I'm excited for that. But I don't know how it all works out. I know the players usually kind of get warnings of like, hey, this might be a little different for you than what you've experienced. But once we get through all that, a lot of the players are relieved because it's like, all right, now we're on to the actual basketball.
All right. In the meantime, it's time for the Scotty J Jiffy Lube Superstat of the Day, brought to you by Jiffy Lube, Indiana's favorite oil change since 1985. I don't know if you guys heard Tom Thibodeau got fired yesterday by the New York Knicks. Second time Tibbs has been fired following a 50-win season. The Bulls dumped him after going 50-32 back in 14-15, as I'm sure you're very well aware, James.
Yes.
And then the Knicks had made the playoffs 4 times under Thibodeau, including the last 3 seasons. The last coach to leave the Knicks after guiding them to the 3 straight playoff appearances would have been Pat Riley, who left to become team president and head coach of the Miami Heat back in 1995. This just doesn't happen all that often, Kevin Bowen. And Tom Thibodeau, gone in New York.
How attractive is that job? Very?
I would think so.
I think it has to be, mainly because of the money. The money will certainly offset a lot of things. That's always funny when we hear about these coaching changes. It's like, who will want that job? Well, if they give you $40 million, you're going to say yes. But beyond that, you do have star power. You have Jalen Brunson. You have Karl Anthony Towns. You have the market, I guess. Scrutiny is a lot bigger in New York, but if you're built for it, you're built for it.
Here's the craziest story, though. So the last time the Knicks made the NBA Finals in the 99 season, we know that was Jeff Van Gundy, right? You remember that?
Yep. He's out there as well. He's available.
Since the start of the 99-2000 season, Tibbs' replacement will be the 15th different head coach for the Knicks since then, tying the Phoenix Suns and the New Jersey or Brooklyn Nets for the most different head coaches during that time span. Just get on the wheel and go, Kevin.
Wow, that seems
15 since 2000.
You know what?
James Dolan, baby.
To that point, I think Tony East put this out there right after Tibbs got fired. It was something like, I know this actually because this is what he put out there. Rick Carlisle is the 7th longest tenured coach in the NBA right now, and he got hired back in 2021. That isn't all that long, but it lets you know how the league is, and the turnover is not for the faint of heart.
Well, I mean, think about the resumes that have been fired just this year. Michael Malone and Thibodeau, and even Taylor Jenkins. Like, when you look at general resumes around the NBA, I mean, Malone, won a title. Thibodeau has done things.
The first in their franchise history, by the way.
With their franchise that haven't been done in over 2 decades. And Taylor Jenkins, I thought, did a fine job in Memphis. I guess maybe they underachieved a little bit there. I mean, like, those 3 dudes, I mean, you can point to a lot of coaches that are like, wait, they're keeping their jobs, and those 3 aren't. So, and you can look at Phoenix, too. Just the constant.
Yeah, Mike Budenholzer got 1 season.
turnover they've had with the new ownership. With them.
The Sarvers and the Dolans, two of the most stable people in franchise ownership.
Yeah, it
throughout
does
all
make
of
you
the leagues,
appreciate,
right?
a little bit more on the stability front, here. I mean, like, we got in this debate a little bit yesterday, but it is one of these things where I think one of the more difficult situations is when you know enough is enough with those people in positions of authority. And when is patience necessary? Like that, I think, is a very tough balance. And I guess when I bring that up, maybe I'm copping out a little bit here with the Knicks angle, but like the Pacers knew Nate Bjorkgren was done after 1 year. That was a year of COVID. You easily could have given him benefit of the doubt and continued. And who knows? Maybe did they know Rick Carlisle would be available? And how much was that an attractive element to, hey, we're going to upgrade with a Hall of Fame caliber coach versus whatever, we're going to hire the top assistant with Eric Spoelstra or, insert your team here. So I think that general premise of a GM or a head coach, when do you practice patience and belief? When do you say we've seen enough? I think that's super, super difficult.
So the Indiana Pacers, though, all they know is while Thibodeau is looking for work, they're getting ready for Game 1 of the Oklahoma City Thunder in the NBA Finals. And we've talked about it a lot today. We started when the show began yesterday. It was 9-point underdogs for the Pacers. They're getting closer and closer to 10 as we get closer and closer to tip. They're now at 9.5, minus 9.5. I want to go back to something you pointed out, too, Kevin. Was it you said that the over-under for the most amount of points scored by either team at any point during the series is 148?
44.
144.
44.
Might as well be 148.
I'm seriously, we're talking about
I believe the
an absolute
Thunder
crazy performance.
The Thunder have done it, I want to say twice maybe this full season. I know game 2 against Denver. So they lost game 1 to Denver on their home floor, and then they came back and beat Denver by 43 in the second game. I think they scored 149 in that game. I want to say they had another game where they might have sniffed that, maybe not at that level, but yeah, 144.5 seems like a high number.
Everybody thinks that these two teams like to play high volume, push the floor up, and I think that's where some of that comes from. I get that, but I also think that the Pacers have improved dramatically on the defensive end. I thought they did very well against the Knicks. And we talk about the Thunder being historically one of the best defensive teams we've seen in the NBA, Kevin. So I don't know where that number comes from, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I'd be stunned. By the way, don't we have a pair of Indy 11 tickets to give away?
We do, on the way out. When you beat me to it. But, yes, Friday night's game, and I believe it's against Lexington FC up there at Grand Park, right, Kylan?
Yep, that's right, Lexington SC.
Can
7 p.m. kickoff. Let's go.
And they can go hear somebody's voice on the PA up there?
Yeah,
Who would that
come
be?
hang out. Let's go.
All right, so let's do James, always fast fingers.
Fast fingers, baby.
All right, 239-1070. That's the way we do it. You can get 2 tickets to go see that Indy 11 women's contest against Lexington FC coming up very soon. So I'm looking forward to that. It's Friday night when I say very soon, by the way. I think I said that before, but that's what we got going on. KB, anything else before we head out the door here today?
Un more sleep.
All right, one more sleep. We'll have Jake tell you all about it from noon to 3, JMV at 3. We'll see you tomorrow morning, bright and early, 7 a.m.